room watching videos.
I don't know. Hi, Danny. Oh my gosh, look, we have Nazi 101 in the audience. It looks like a Kanye West fanboy. Can the Kanye West fanboy come up and play? Like, oh my gosh, hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, how are you?
Good. Boy, I hope your skin is...
It's yay, it's not Kanye, it's yay, but I'm a big Yay fan, definitely.
Oh, okay. I hope you have nice, I hope you have pearly white skin like an Aryan.
I mean, let's not go there. But I do not really support everything he says because he's been supporting Diddy a lot. So.
Whoa.
Oh, okay. But you support him enough to like put your Kanye Nazi symbol on your PTR.
Yeah, but it's not because of him only.
Oh, okay. You just like the Nazis in general. You think it's hot. I mean, I can shave my mustache. I can shave my mustache into a little into a little tiny rectangle on the top of my lip, a little soul patch, maybe the Nazi soul patch. Would you like that? Is that?
It's not that I just don't like Jewish people. That's it.
Is it called like a toothbrush mustache?
I don't like.
Is that what it's called?
It's like a half mustache. It's weird, man. I don't really care about his mustache, honestly. It's not even about him. It's not even about that. It's just I don't like Jews. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's it. I appreciate the honesty.
Okay.
Nazi.
Isn't it?
Okay, Hitler originally wore a traditional handlebar style of mustache, otherwise known as the Kaiser. But during World War I, was ordered to trim it so his gas mask would fit properly. So naturally, he trimmed it to the relatively popular toothbrush style.
One of them had a
which was apparently introduced to Germany from the U.S. in the late 19th century. So they were copying us.
It's kind of irrelevant, honestly. Let's just stay on topic.
Oh, okay. Just stay on the hating the Jews part of it. She just wants to stick and focus on hating the Jews.
I just want to be clear. The name of that mustache is the toothbrush mustache.
Well, I mean, to be fair about it, as long as you hate the Jews, I mean, that's probably enough Jew hating for anybody. So I'd probably take the other side of that. But, that's just me.
Nazi, when you see any random Jew, do you want to kill them?
That's the thing. So I am based in Canada. I don't really see any Jews.
No, I'm saying if you see like a child, if you see like a 2-year-old, if you see a 2-year-old child walking around, you want to stab him to death?
Fuck you, guys.
Only if they're Jewish. Only if they're Jewish.
Fuck you.
Only if they're Jewish.
I'm asking Nazi. If you see a 2-year-old.
Fuck you.
Shut up. Nazi, if you see a 2-year-old Jewish child, do you want to kill him? Nazi. Okay.
Yeah, I guess
Doesn't have enough courage for that.
Yes,
No.
but she said they don't have Jews in Canada.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Can you answer my question? Nazi? Say coward. You're a coward.
No, she said that she got a call. I think Adolf
Right, she
might have
apologizes
given her
to
a phone
the
call.
inconvenience of everyone
From the other
listening,
side.
but she has a call. She just wanted to politely let
It's
everyone
very
know
important.
it's not out of rudeness or disrespect to anyone listening. The Nazi is simply taking a phone call. We apologize.
Aquarius, brother. I just need to ask something.
Sure, we don't mind interrupting.
Is Nazi a girl? Is Nazi a girl or a boy?
Well, I mean, it's. I want to be very careful not to misgender her or him, her, he, him, her, she. I don't know. I don't want to misgender that individual because sometimes someone with a feminine sound like this Nazi here might actually be a he, him. This is 2025. So just please be sensitive and don't misgender the Nazi.
Okay, Nazi, the Nazi is a girl. Just wanted to confirm that. It's fine. I'm going to go now.
Okay, all right. Well, it would be appropriate. It would be appropriate to use maybe we could use pronouns like shithead for the Nazi. Like that would probably be acceptable because that covers multi-genders of Nazis.
Yeah, I think Nazi's not going to speak if I'm here, so I'm going to go now. Guys, take care.
Okay, goodbye.
Have a good day.
Why did she care if you're here or not? What did you?
Yeah, that's the point. She won't speak. I'm telling you, because we haven't spoken to each other, but we have added each other. She knows me.
The Nazi doesn't give a shit about you. I hate to break it to you.
Can you please check the chat, room chat? Can you please check that? She wants
No, I don't check the chat. She can say whatever she wants.
Okay, okay, let's see. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be on mute.
It just exposes the Nazi, to be fair about it. I think that what's important to know is that the freedom in which this Nazi has in her fingertips to put this fucking disgusting symbol on the stage has been paid for by all of us here that love freedom.
Okay.
Anyway, I just want to say hi to my friends that showed up in the audience. If you want to bring some, come on up. Just, I don't know how it works here. Raise your hand. Kelly, Near, Marshall.
How do we pronounce your name? Yeah.
First got stabbed by one of you crazy bitches. But look, that's not the point. The point is that statistically speaking, if you were the best thing in her life, Abiel, then she has nowhere to go but down. So probably by now, 6 years ago, I'm pretty sure she's probably been pimped out by some nigga, somebody that fed her some dope or something like that. She living in some raggedy ass mixed up shack or a car or a hotel or something like that. And you know what I'm saying? She probably sits there and thinks about how her life could have been had she had stayed with you. That's if you were, handling business. I don't know.
I just remembered why. Another big reason why. Well, I don't know if it matters, but she also she's been in a long-term relationship, trying to be my friend, and I find that a little suspicious. Maybe that's just me being skeptical, but
no, that's not skeptical. You're in the right. You're the good guy. That shit's not.
Okay, so I can tell you that was a piece of information that was left out before.
Yeah, I just remembered. Literally.
Every fucking time I would get mad at my ex, I would think about the ex before him.
Like if I told you,
this is lying.
If I had a chosen, no, that is not. Okay, so it's not dating up. My ex was an entrepreneur, and the one before him was too. I don't fuck with nasty ghetto niggers. So anyway,
I'm not a nasty ghetto nigger. How dare you? I'm a Paul.
Sure.
He's a ghetto nigga, but I'm not a nasty one.
No, but it was like I made a choice, and I'm just like, you make me regret. You make me wish I had chose him.
You know what? I feel like
my point.
That's not your point. You're always talking about going up because of
I have more information. I have more details about that.
Wait, hold on.
And you're depreciated by the minute. You should go back to one of those suckers that's willing to take you back and move on.
I'm not a loser bitch who doesn't know how to exist in a life by themselves. Anyway, if Lion could stop being a ghetto piece of shit. What was that, Melissa?
I was actually going to ask Abdiel. I'm curious what Marshall's advice would be to Abdiel if he could repeat the story.
I'm trying to bring the story. The
scenario, yeah.
Wait, the girl that broke my heart?
No. The worker, the dilemma that you're in. I wonder what Marshall's advice would be.
I was also damn, what would Marshall do? What the fuck?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up? All right, Marshall. Been at my job for over 10 years. Isn't yeah, I like it. They treat me well, whatever. Just giving you some context. And I've been working with this girl for 2 years. I want to say she's been at my job, and she wants me to take her out I mean, we've never really been friends. I mean, the way she even worded it, she's like, "Hey, do you want to get to know me?" I was like, "Yo, I've never had a girl ask me that shit." But anyways, well, let me try to remember. Oh yeah, I just recently found out that because I don't know her that well. I only see her at work. We kill time whenever it's slow at work. That's how we really became cool. But yeah, I'm 32 and I found out she's 23. And what else am I missing, Melissa? Like any details?
You're trying to leave the job soon.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be leaving the job soon.
Yeah.
So,
What do you think, Marshall? What should he do?
Sounds like she likes you. I would get to know her and see where that goes. Unless you
That's
are not
right.
in a place, unless you're not in a place to do that. If you're not in an emotional headspace for that, no harm, no foul. You know, like people got to be ready. But it kind of sounds like she's inviting you to get to know her because she likes you.
Oh, well, Marshall, you missed the part about how Abdiel is seemingly only interested in physical activities.
for now, you know,
I'm sorry, but the way that girl approached you, she's only interested in extracurricular physical activities. And she doesn't sound like she's
But
trying
getting to know someone implies.
There's a difference, Tally. You're not walking up to a guy saying you ain't trying to get to know me. Come on.
It's not like she said, I want to get to know you in a biblical sense. She said she wants to get to know you, which typically indicates somebody is interested.
That indicates split me in a...
I don't know
Oh, wow.
if it's a regional thing.
He's right.
Or if it's a New York City thing. But single women in New York City, I'm not saying all. Again, I'm not saying all. I'm not saying most. I won't even say half. Maybe just the ones I come across. Single women, they doing their thing, alright? That's the way I look at it. So.
That's the case generally in big cities. I get it. But
I'm not trying to.
You're gonna be like guy number. You're gonna be like guy number 15.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm not trying to feel special because she came up to me and told me like, hey.
It's not about being special. She wants to fuck.
It's
possible. She just wants to get to know you.
All of that is true, but remember, you have to think about you. Stop thinking with your dick and think about the consequences of even playing and moving in that direction.
Yeah, lying, turn that shit up, lying. Got it.
What's the positives? What's the positives and the negatives? So, of course, the first positive is, yes, you get the busted nut. The second positive is what? Nothing.
Well, if you get to know her, there may be positives you're not aware of.
And she's a server, right? You said it's no. She said she's a greeter.
A hostess, right? Yeah.
A hostess. There's not much positives coming out of that.
They split tips, right? They split tips.
The reason
he's looking for a provider to say that.
Yeah, that's what she's looking for. Exactly.
He's looking for a provider in his wife, or not?
No. So we're playing the pro and con game. Now, what's a con? What's another con that can happen from him intermingling himself with this young lady?
I don't see it as a con, maybe not yet, but like the age difference is a con, can be a big con.
Is she in school? She going to school? She got some shit going on?
No, she just she has 2 part-time jobs.
Well, you've known her for 2 years, right? So y'all should know some shit about each other, right?
Like, not that well.
What's the purpose of the part-time jobs? What is she doing with the part-time jobs? Trying to supplement.
She trying to have a full-time job?
Nah, I don't really know. That's the thing, bro. I don't know her that well.
All right.
I don't know if she's
trying to get, look, I'm just telling you now, 9 times out of 10, she's trying to get 3 incomes instead of 2. Guess which one she's trying to get?
Look, FDL, I asked Marshall because I feel Marshall is fairly
wrong.
And I wanted to see what he thought you should do. So if Marshall thinks you should do it, you should do it.
And now for the ladies, have y'all ever, I'm not saying in the exact same scenario, but have y'all ever like found a older attractive man that you were willing or were interested in?
I didn't do it. When I left my husband, have this trainer, and he was, oh God, and you know how close and like touchy trainers are. But I couldn't do it. I was just like, oh my God.
Did he ever shoot the shot or nah?
Of course.
Oh, okay, so alright, you was just saying nah, okay.
Well, that's because Kelly is a coward by nature. She's scared to do
No.
things. She's scared to try new things. So therefore, she's always gonna be that person just sitting on the sidelines. That's it.
So I should be a whore. I should be a whore, and then you would think more of me? Is that what you're saying, Lion?
Did you ask me to get to know you?
At least
That's some real game. Would you like to get to know me? Alright.
at least your life will be more exciting. You only have one life to live, lady.
I'm living it. But yeah, I know how I am. Honestly, my cousin and I have discussed this in depth. We have determined that the anatomy is off. My heart is where it shouldn't be. And so if you do certain things, I'm in love. I'm in love. I don't know what to tell you. I just so I feel your pain, Abiel, but also that's why I don't do that with just like anybody. Everyone wasn't made to be a slut.
Really funny.
What about Melissa and James?
Wait, hold on. I got to challenge you. 2024, real quick. Most exciting thing you've done the entire year. Go.
2024. Damn. I ain't do much. Just worked. I went to a few the NLCS Mets playoffs. That was pretty exciting. What else? Went to the Pocono Mountains twice in the summer and in the fall. Yeah, bro, it's been a whack year. Like, I mean, I've had fun, but nothing crazy.
Rented on YouTube. I was surprised when it cost me $5.
Oh, on YouTube. Sean, you said $5 more than you got. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I was just being facetious or whatever.
And that brings up a good topic. Are you part of the lower class, Sean?
Lower class.
Are you part of the lower class?
Dude, you're cold, Christian. You're cutthroat.
Nah. I'm actually a pretty nice dude, honestly. I just love messing around.
Yeah,
you do. You roll with the punches, yeah, and I like that. It's nice.
That's you're rolling with the big boys throwing those shots. We know you're joking, but you're good.
Well, listen, I'm kind of like a snake. No one really knows when I'm gonna strike. Like you know how the rattlesnake kind of like rattles when it's kind of like angry. Like that's not how I am. I'm like one of the mysterious types. It's like you don't know when I'm going to. It's kind of just like it happens when it happens.
Has tiny little cilia, hair-like extensions all around it. When you hold your breath and you finally let your...
Once upon a time, there was a Zen student who
quoted an old Buddhist poem to his teacher, which says, "The voices of torrents are from one great tongue. The lines of the hills are the pure body of Buddha." "Isn't that right?" he said to the teacher. "It is," said the teacher, "but it's a pity to say so. It would be, of course, much better if this occasion was celebrated with no talk at all, and if I addressed you in the manner of the ancient teachers of Zen, I should hit the microphone with my fan and leave. Because Zen is a way of life, a state of being that is not possible to embrace in any concept whatsoever. So that any concepts, any ideas, any words that I shall put across to you this evening will have as their object showing you the limitations of words and of thinking. Now then, if one must try to say something about what Zen is, and I want to do this by way of introduction, I must make it emphatic that Zen, in its essence, is not a doctrine. There's nothing you're supposed to believe in. And it's not a philosophy in our sense, that is to say, a set of ideas, an intellectual net in which one tries to catch the fish of reality. Actually, the fish of reality is more like water. It always slips through the net, and in water, you know, when you get into it, there's nothing to hang on to. All this universe is like water. It is fluid, it is transient, it is changing. And when you're thrown into the water after being accustomed to living on the dry land, you're not used to the idea of swimming. You try to stand on the water, you try to catch hold of it, and as a result you drown. The only way to survive in the water, and this refers particularly to the waters of modern philosophical confusion, where God is dead, metaphysical propositions are meaningless, and there's really nothing to hang on to, because we're all just falling apart. And the only thing to do under those circumstances is to learn how to swim. And to swim, you relax. You let go, you give yourself to the water. And you have to know how to breathe in the right way. And then you find that the water holds you up. Indeed, in a certain way, you become the water. And so in the same way, one might say, if one attempted to, but again I say misleadingly, to put Zen into any sort of concept, it simply comes down to this. That in this universe there is one great energy, and we have no name for it. People have tried various names for it, like God, like Brahman, like Tao. But in the West, the word God has got so many funny associations attached to it that most of us are bored with it. When people say God the Father Almighty, most people feel funny inside. And so we like to hear new words. We like to hear about Tao, about Brahman, about Shinyo, and Tathata, and such strange names from the Far East, because they don't carry the same associations of mawkish sanctimony and funny meanings from the past. And actually, some of these words that the Buddhists use for the basic energy of the world really don't mean anything at all. The word Tathata, which is translated from the Sanskrit into suchness or thusness or something like that, really means something more like dadada, based on the word tat, which in Sanskrit means that. In Sanskrit it is said, tattvam asi, that thou art, or in modern American, you're it. But da first sound a baby makes when it comes into the world. Because the baby looks around and says, da, 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 that. And fathers flatter themselves and think it's saying da da, which means dad. But according to Buddhist philosophy, all this universe is one da da da. That means 10,000 functions or 10,000 things, one suchness. And we're all one suchness. And that means suchness comes and goes like everything else because this whole world is an on and off system. As the Chinese say, it's the yang and the yin. And therefore it consists of now you see it, now you don't, here you are, here you aren't. Because that's the very nature of energy, to be like waves, and waves have crests and troughs. Only, we, being under a certain kind of sleepiness or illusion, imagine that the trough is going to overcome the wave, or the crest. The yin, the dark principle, is going to overcome the yang, or the light principle. And that off is finally going to triumph over on. And we, shall I say, bug ourselves by indulging in that illusion. Gee, supposing darkness did win out, wouldn't that be terrible? And so we're constantly trembling, thinking that it may, because after all, isn't it odd that anything exists? It's most peculiar. It requires effort, it requires energy, and it would be so much easier for there to have been nothing at all. Therefore we think, well, since the is side of things is so much effort, you always give up after a while and you sink back into death. But death is just the other face of energy. And it's the rest, the not being anything around, that produces something around, just in the same way that you can't have solid without space, or space without solid. When you wake up to this, and realize that the more it changes, the more it's the same thing, as the French say, that you are really a playing of this one energy, and there is nothing else but that it is you, but that for you to be always you would be an insufferable bore. And therefore, it is arranged that you stop being you after a while, and then come back as someone else altogether. And so when you find that out, you become full of energy and delight. As Blake said, energy is eternal delight. And you suddenly see through the whole sham of things. You realize you're that. We won't put a name on it. You're that. And you can't be anything else. So you are relieved of fundamental terror. That doesn't mean that you're always going to be a great hero, that you won't jump when you hear a bang, that you won't worry occasionally, that you won't lose your temper. It means, though, that fundamentally, deep down within you, you will be able to be human. So it is then that, if I may put it metaphorically, Zhuangzi said, the perfect man employs his mind as a mirror. It grasps nothing, it refuses nothing, it receives but does not keep. In other words, this is to be, put it very strictly into our modern idiom, this is to live without hang-ups. That is to say, to be able to drift like a cloud and flow like water. Seeing that all life is a magnificent illusion, a playing of energy, and there is absolutely nothing fundamentally to be afraid of. If you were told that you were going to be given half an hour's interview with God, and you had the privilege of asking one question, I wonder what you would ask. You might be given some preparation too. Because when you think, what is your ultimate question? You'll probably do many things before you arrive at it. And I know many people would discover that they had no question to ask. The situation would be altogether too overwhelming. But many people to whom I've put this problem say that the question that they would ask is, who am I? And that is something we know very little about. Because whatever it is that we call I is too close for inspection. It's like trying to bite your own teeth.
It's just
or to touch the tip of your finger
oh,
with the
that's
tip
the
of the same finger.
Brophy. Yo, Brophy man, are you there?
And although other people can tell you what they were, who you are, and do, they only see you from the outside, as you see them from the outside. And you don't see from the inside. And so, the nature of what it is that we call I is extremely puzzling, because there is some confusion as to how much of us is I. We talk in ordinary ways about my body, my feet, and when we go to the dentist to have our teeth fixed, we regard him rather as a mechanic. Like you take your car to the garage, so you take your body to the surgeon or the dentist or whatever it is to be fixed, have the parts changed or something of that kind. And they're really getting to work on that now. And so the question is, when somebody has a heart transplant, that sounds very radical because we say, in my heart of hearts. But nowadays, most of us seem to feel that whatever it is that I is located in the head. Somewhere behind the eyes and between the ears is the center. And the rest of us is an appendage, a vehicle, which carries the self around. Now, popular speech also reflects the sensation that I am very different from what we call the other. Other people, other things, anything that we can become aware of is sort of other. There is an opposition, apparently, between the knower and the known. And so we talk about facing reality. We talk about coming into this world as if somehow we didn't belong. As if instead of being leaves growing out of a tree, we were a lot of birds that had alighted on bare branches. And it has become common sense for most people living in the 20th century today to adopt the 19th century philosophy of science, which interprets the physical universe outside human bodies as being a mechanical contraption, which is essentially stupid, unfeeling, automatic, composed of mainly geological elements, rocks, gases, and so forth. And therefore we feel rather alone and left out of this thing. In contrast with the ideas of Ptolemaic astronomy, instead of being at the center of the universe, we are on the outer limits of a minor galaxy, revolving around an unimportant star on a small, minute ball of rock. And therefore, that astronomical way of looking at things is simply overwhelming. It makes us feel not only of no importance, but also very much left out. And as a result, that is the common sense of most people living today. We did, of course, have a religious view of our nature, that we were the children of a loving God who is in charge of this whole operation. But very few people actually believe that anymore. A great many people think they ought to believe in it, and would like to believe in it, but they don't. Most ministers that I know don't believe it, but they feel guilty about this because they feel they ought to. But it became implausible. There never was a serious argument against it. It simply became unthinkable in comparison with the dimensions of the universe as we now see it. So having lost a way of looking at the world, an image of the world which gave us some sense of meaning, we now have an image of the world which gives us none at all. And so we feel rather inclined to put up a fight against the whole show. Interestingly enough, when in the 19th century we switched our common sense from supernaturalism to naturalism, one would think that a naturalist would be a person who loved nature, just as a materialist ought to be a person who loves material, but certainly isn't. With what is called the philosophy of scientific naturalism, naturalism is used in a negative way. It has nothing to do with being natural. It has something to do with being not supernatural, merely natural. And all sorts of phrases were coined in that epoch, which I would call put-down phrases. Freud spoke of the basic psychic energy as libido, which means blind lust. People like Ernst Haeckel spoke of the universe as being a manifestation of blind energy. Think of that put-down word, blind. And therefore we also speak of unconscious mental mechanisms. And the very word unconscious, as being the deeper aspect of our psyche, is a negative word and a put-down word. So as to say, what you are functioning as a rational ego with values and with a capacity to love is simply the epiphenomenon of a purely mechanical process. Too bad. So as a result of this so-called naturalism, we began to put up the most whopping fight against nature that was ever engaged in. And that fight is an expression of our fury and of our feeling of being left out. So that the technological experiment, which became possible as a result of the mechanical sciences, has largely been conducted in a spirit of rage. And the results are evident all around us. Here in Palm Springs, you are gradually getting all the smog from Los Angeles. This great cloud of poisonous gas put up by a city which is exemplary in this whole civilized world for fouling its own nest. Perhaps only Calcutta could be a bit worse. Some such terrible slum. But we have done it by technology, by ruthless beating about of nature without consideration for what the scientists would call our ecology. Ecology is that aspect of science which deals with the relationship between organisms and their environments. Ecology is the study of the balance of nature, of the way in which every living being depends upon innumerable other living beings of all species, and also upon inanimate forces, air, water, temperature, gases, vegetation, and all sorts of things. And this is one of the most important sciences that we can possibly study today. Because we are in a position where we realize that we cannot help interfering with the world. To be alive is to interfere. You must interfere. You cannot go back and say, hands off nature, let's leave it all alone. Because you're stuck with it. Especially once you've started to interfere in a major way. We have so altered our environment that there is no hope for it but to go ahead. But we can, to some extent, change direction. But the only way that I can see of our effectively changing direction is through a transformation of the feeling that we have of our own existence and of what we mean by I. The reason for this is simply that all kinds of intelligent and even powerful people, like, say, Lawrence Rockefeller, who are interested in ecology and in conservation of our natural resources, they can scream their heads off, but nobody pays any attention. There is as yet, no really serious program at the government level to do anything radical about the pollution of water, the waste of water, the pollution of air, and the general ravaging of the United States of America. I'm amazed that congressmen can pass a bill imposing severe penalties on anyone who burns the American flag, whereas they are responsible for burning that for which the flag stands. The United States as a territory, as a people, and as a biological manifestation. That is an example of our perennial confusion of symbols with realities, which is, in a way, at the heart of the trouble, because what we think of as I is much more a symbol than it is a reality. The living organism, the whole mind-body, is much more than anything we mean by I. I largely stands for your personality, your role in life. And the very word person, as you probably know, comes from the Latin persona, a word originally used for the mask worn by actors in Greco-Roman drama, that through which sound comes because the mask had a megaphonic mouth to carry the voice in open-air theaters. So when you speak of being a real person, it really means being a genuine fake, because the personality is only the front. What is behind it? Well, of course, the organism is behind it. The whole organism. And we must be very careful not to confuse the organism with various symbols that we have for it, because those symbols can be extremely misleading. If we say the organism is the body, what we usually mean by the body is an impoverished meaning. When we speak of my body, that is to say my vehicle, my physical automobile, that is an unenriched meaning of the word body. Because what you really are as a body, as a living organism, is not some sort of separate existence coated by a skin which divides you from the rest of the world. Shakespeare has King John saying to Hubert, "Within this wall of flesh there is a soul, counts thee her creditor." Within this wall of flesh, the skin considered as a barrier, when actually, from a biological point of view, the human skin and all skins are osmotic membranes. You know, when you get something by osmosis, by sort of soaking it in. So in the same way, one's skin is a spongy construction, full of holes, full of communicators, nerve ends. And your skin is simply a vibrating membrane through which the so-called external world flows into you and through you. So that you yourself actually are not so much an entity that moves around in an environment. You are much more like a whirlpool in a stream. And as you know, the whirlpool is constant only in its doing, that is to say, in its whirling. And you can recognize individual whirligigs in a stream. But the water is flowing through them all the time. They are never the same but for a second. And so it is also with us. Or imagine it in another way. Supposing you have a rope, and one foot of the rope is made of hemp. 1 foot of it is made of cotton. 1 foot of it is made of silk. 1 foot of it is made of nylon, and so on. Now tie a simple knot in the rope. Now move the knot along the rope. And 1 minute it will be hemp, the next cotton, next silk, next nylon, and so on. Same knot. It will be recognizable as a continuing knot, as that knot, the knot in that rope. But the constitution of it will change as it moves. And so our constitution is changing constantly. Imagine, for example, a university. The student body, undergraduate, changes every 4 years. The faculty changes every so often. The buildings keep changing more and more. What constitutes the University of California? It certainly isn't the faculty, it isn't the students, it isn't the governors, it isn't the administration, it isn't the buildings. What is it? Why, a doing, a behavior, a universitying process of study and experiment and so on. So it is exactly the same with you. You flow. You are a process. But how do we draw the line about this process and its relationship to all other processes? We find that a very difficult thing to do the more you think about it. If you really felt with your whole organism, instead of just with that part of it called conscious attention, you would become aware of this flowing fact. And you would get a very strange feeling, which at first might frighten you. It is possible, of course, to have this feeling. And the feeling is like this. You would not be quite sure how to interpret it. You might feel that you yourself were doing everything else that's happening. That would be one way of feeling. The other way of feeling it would be that you are doing nothing at all, but that everything else is doing you. And you would feel completely passive, like a puppet on the end of strings. Although, on the other hand, if you got the feeling that you were doing it all, you would feel like God Almighty. It is very easy for our consciousness to slip into this state of sensation. It can happen spontaneously, like reasons. It can happen by training, as when someone practices yoga. It can happen chemically, as when certain drugs are taken. And one has to be very careful about this feeling because it's enormously easy to misinterpret it. Either as being omnipotent, being God in the personal, literal sense, or as being helpless and merely driven. Now, what should be understood is that both these ways of feeling are right, only they must both be taken together. To be simultaneously omnipotent and helpless. These are two poles, opposite poles of one and the same state. Because the message that is coming through, and that we find difficulty in understanding because it's contrary to our common sense, contrary to our whole history and conditioning, the message that's coming through is you as a living organism and all that is going on in your environment constitute a single process. What in physics we would call a unified field. A single process, like a pattern, but you know, any pattern has all sorts of subsidiary wiggles in it. Like the organism itself is a unified pattern, but it's full of wiggles. All sorts of tubes and organs and bones and nerves and so on. Working in this way. You know the body doesn't have a boss. We could pitch a big argument. Who is really the top dog in your body? Your stomach or your brain? I can argue for both ways. Well, let's first argue for the stomach. The stomach is fundamental. That's what eats, and eating is the fundamental thing of being alive. By putting food into the stomach, it digests it, and from there it goes out and energizes everything else. Obviously, the stomach is the most important. The hands, the mouth, the feet, all exist to serve the stomach, and naturally, as a final achievement of the stomach, is the brain, evolving later in the evolutionary process as a gadget up there to scavenge around and find stuff for the stomach to eat. That's the function of the brain. But now let's take the argument to the side of the brain. The brain says, oh, no, come now. Just because I arrived late doesn't mean that I'm unimportant. I was being gotten ready for. Because I am the thing that was in the flower at the top of this thing. And this tube with stomachs in it and things below was preparing for me, and the stomach is my servant. It is doing all the dirty work, getting energy to put currents through my wonderful circuits, so that by the creation of all the goods of the mind, of the arts and sciences and religion and philosophy and so on, I shall be the true head of man. Well, both arguments are right. Because you have a relationship between stomach and brain, which is a sort of polarity. The one exists for the other. It's like when you prop up two sticks against each other. They will stand up so long as they lean on each other. Take one away and the other collapses. So chop off the head and the stomach is finished. Take out the stomach and the head is finished. So this is the way all organic life proceeds. It's different with mechanical life. Because the mechanism must invariably have a boss. The man who puts the machine together, the person who constructs the computer, who designs it, who asks it questions, who programs it. He is the boss. But organisms don't have bosses. They are essentially, I would say, democratic arrangements, where somehow in a marvelous way, an enormous company of cells are working together. But that isn't the way. The body wasn't sort of one day a lot of cells all crept together and said we're a body. That does sometimes happen in the biological domain. But much rather this, when you watch the gestation of a mammal, you see first of all a very simple little organism which swells. And as it swells, it becomes more and more complicated from within. No parts are added. Nothing is screwed on. There's no welding done or anything like that. It bulges. And of course, it does absorb material, but it transforms it. But all of it works together at once, like the legs of a centipede. Like you work all together at once. For you see, when we come down to it, you think you decide things, but you don't know how you do it. How do you open and close your hand? You can decide, I will now open my hand and do it. But you don't know how it's done. And yet, in a sense, you do know how it's done, because I say, I know how to open my hand. But you don't know in words. You can't explain it. Still less can you explain how you see. Still less can you explain how you are conscious. How are you an ego? Well, you don't know. Because the springs of being conscious, of being an ego, are outside the surveillance of consciousness. They are somehow underneath. And that lets the cat out of the bag at once. Because you see that what is I is something very, very much deeper than the superficial consciousness. And what you call I in the sense of the voluntary willing center, ego, has very little to do with it. You are just a watchman on top of the mast. Or a radar on a ship that is scanning the environment by conscious attention, looking out for trouble, or looking for food. The real you is much too complicated to think about. Supposing when you woke up in the morning, you had to switch yourself on. That is to say, you had to, by an act of conscious attention, to go through your brain and turn on all the synapses necessary for wakeful life. It'd take you hours. Supposing you really had to be conscious of all the details involved in walking, or in breathing, or in circulation you see, when we inspect the physical world with conscious attention, the first thing that strikes us is that the physical world is extraordinarily complicated. How can it possibly be organized? But actually, the physical world is not complicated at all. What is complicated is the task of trying to describe it in words, or of trying to figure it out in numbers. Because that is analogous to the task of, say, removing the water from the Pacific Ocean into the Atlantic with a beer mug. We can only take one mug at a time. And so we say in popular speech, you can only think of one thing at a time. That's not exactly true. But what it reveals is that thinking, that conscious thought, is a kind of calculus in which we understand things bit by bit. And it leads us into the superstition that things really are bits. Now, when you eat chicken, of course, you have to bite it, and you take it in bits. And to make it easier to bite, you order from the grocer a cut-up fryer. But you don't get cut-up fryers out of eggs. Because you see, although we can speak of a chicken, an egg, or a body, it is not actually a bit. It hasn't been bitten off, except for purposes of thinking. Now, this is beautifully brought out in a passage from Whitehead, which I will read to you. He's discussing the 19th century philosophy of science, which I was just discussing too. And he's saying in this philosophy, all our impressions of nature are simply products of our minds. Nature gets credit which should in truth be reserved for ourselves. The rose for its scent, the nightingale for his song, and the sun for his radiance. The poets are entirely mistaken. They should address their lyrics to themselves and should turn them into odes of self-congratulation on the excellency of the human mind. Nature is a dull affair, soundless, scentless, colorless, merely the hurrying of material endlessly, meaninglessly. However you disguise it, this is the practical outcome of the characteristic scientific philosophy which closed even the 17th century. In the first place, we must note its astounding efficiency as a system of concepts for the organization of scientific research. In this respect, it is fully worthy of the genius of the century which produced it. It has held its own as the guiding principle of scientific studies ever since. It is still reigning. Every university in the world organizes itself in accordance with it. No alternative system of organizing the pursuit of scientific truth has been suggested. It is not only reigning, but it is without a rival. And yet, it is quite unbelievable. This conception of the universe is surely framed in terms of high abstractions, and the paradox only arises because we have mistaken our abstractions for concrete realities. He calls that, you see, the fallacy of misplaced concreteness. The attribution, in other words, to our bitty way of thinking, to the world which we are biting. That is misplaced concreteness. The separations between things are abstract. They are concepts. In the same way, for example, as lines of latitude and longitude are concepts. Even though a Russian poet has recently made a beautiful poem about the world being like a ball carried in a net bag. But you never expect to trip over the equator when you cross it. And although it is something quite abstract and does not exist in nature, it's extremely useful for purposes of navigation. So in the same way, bitting and having words to describe particular events or particular wiggles in the universal pattern are very useful. But they are very dangerous when you confuse things with natural events. Because then you get into this sort of trouble. The trouble of the sorcerer. The surgeon, who is too much of a specialist in one organ, runs into that organ and alters it, and does what he considers a better mechanical job than the Lord did. But then he discovers, to his dismay, and the even greater dismay of his patient, that the operation has unforeseen consequences in some other part of the organism, because he didn't realize the connection. When likewise we object to certain insect pests. Oh, we say, get rid of them. DDT. And so we didn't. But then we found we got rid of something else that we didn't want to get rid of. And worse still, this insect that we didn't like was doing a job for us in some manner of which we weren't aware. We only become aware of it, but suddenly we find ourselves covered with another kind of fly altogether, or with some sort of bacteria which this insect kept down. Watch it. Peas and flowers. Oh, we always use the peas and flowers to explain fundamental things about life. But we're going to go deeper than sex this time. Fascinating thing about peas and flowers is they are very different looking things. A flower sits still and blooms, and it smells, or stinks to be correct. The bee moves about and buzzes, but they are all one organism. You don't find flowers without bees. You don't find bees without flowers. They are just as much one as your head and your feet, which also look very different. So in that sense, you see, we are one with the incredible complexity of processes and wiggles upon which we depend. Although to say upon which we depend is not quite accurate. Because that separates us from it as if I were hanging onto a beam and depending on it. It isn't like that. You don't depend on it because it depends on you. It's a mutual arrangement. And it isn't that one bit of this sort of came first, although that sometimes happens. But it's always there in potentiality, what came later. But it's rather in the same way that when a flower opens, you see all the different petals extending simultaneously, especially when you watch a fast motion movie of a flower opening. And so in the same way, there is a simultaneous arrival or evolution of the human organism and the human environment. And thus, biologists speak about the evolution of an environment as well as the evolution of an organism in it. In other words, the human beings could not have appeared on this planet until its temperature had lowered to a certain degree, until the atmosphere contained certain gases as a result of vegetative development. And then the environment became evolved enough for human beings to appear in it. Evolved enough? I'll say something further. Intelligent enough for the appearance in it of intelligent beings. For your environment is intelligent. Otherwise you couldn't be. You see, as Jesus said, you don't gather figs off thistles or grapes from thorns. You won't get pears off an apple tree. So, you won't find people except on a people tree. And this planet, this solar system, this galaxy, is peopling in exactly the same way that an apple tree apples. Put our existence into verb language as distinct from noun language, and you're much closer to the point. You see, nouns have the difficulty of designating things. Verbs designate process. Now, everything is a process, really. When we speak of housing for houses, matting for mats, we're getting there. The Nootka Indians have a language in which there are no nouns. And so they say, it houses, and then they add an adverb to show whether it houses religiously, homily, or marketingly. And so they see the world as the flow. What is it that houses? What is it that rains when we say it is raining? You see, we always have a funny idea that to get a verb, that is to say to get action, you have to have an agent. Now, this is the most ridiculous idea conceivable. How can a noun start a verb? How can a thing start an event? Because there's no action in a thing. Action can only come from action. Energy from energy. You can't get energy from a concept, because nouns are all concepts. They're abstract, really. It's only verbs that are concrete, because the world is process. Now, common sense insists that the pattern of the world must be made of something, because we still think with Aristotle's common sense, or with the imagery of the book of Genesis, where God made Adam out of the clay. In other words, he made a clay figurine and breathed breath into it, and it became alive. And so we constantly think that we, as are made of flesh, as if flesh was some sort of stuff like clay out of which you shape bodies, or like you make tables out of wood. Are trees made out of wood? What a ridiculous question. Trees are wood. They're not made of wood. And it's simply this artifact thing that gives us the idea of the world being made out of something. It isn't made out of anything. And so when physics tries to investigate what is the stuff of matter, they can't find any. Because you can never talk about anything except a process. You can describe what a process is doing. You can describe the structure, the nature of the dance, whether it's doing a waltz or a mazurka or the frog, or whatever it is. Then you can describe that melody, shall we say, what it is performing. But there is nothing doing the performing at all. There is no stuff out of which it's being done, because when you examine stuff, you just find more pattern. See, what you mean by stuff is fuzz. When you look at something with a lens and you're out of focus, you see fuzz. But when you come into focus, you see structure. All right, now, the structure is made of all sorts of little lines and things. You can see them, and you wonder what are they made of. So you turn up the magnification, and for a while you get a lot of fuzz, but when you're clear again, you see that those little lines are also made of more little lines, more structure. And big patterns have little patterns upon their backs, divided and so on. And that's the way it goes. So, suddenly you feel rather insecure, because stuff has disappeared. There's a famous story about a physicist who understood this so well, but he always went about in the most enormous padded shoes, because he was afraid of falling through the floor. Now look what's happened. Just look and see what has happened to us. If we go through everything that I've been saying, we find, first of all, that the thing that we thought was I is nothing more than a social institution. Just like the equator, or an inch. And to mistake it, to reify it, as Whitehead would say, is the fallacy of misplaced concreteness. It's strictly a hallucination. And any certain amount of psychological self-exploration shows this to be the case. For what we are is the organism. And what the organism is a transactional interchange between the organism and the environment. It's not quite correct to say you're doing it and it's doing you. Because, see, Whitehead, in describing the scientific philosophy, saying, for example, that blue is entirely our projection on the sky, he's half right, you see. Those scientists he's talking about are half right. But the part of it that is left out of consideration is this. True, you, with your optical nerves and eyes, transform the sky into the blue feeling. But without the sky, you would... It's mutual. You do it, and it does you. But that's, as I said, a two-way, a clumsy way of talking about it's all one process, a unified process. And furthermore, from this process there has disappeared what we thought was solidity, what we thought was common sense, substance, and stuff. It's just pattern. And at once one feels sort of ghostly, as if you could be easily blown away. And that's why the Hindus call the universe the Maya, which means the illusion. Don't forget, the illusion is related to the Latin word illudere, to play. So the play, the big act. It also means magic, as in a conjurer's creation of a delusion. It also means creative power. It also means art. And finally, it means the divine power. The Maya of the Lord. Lord is a bad translation of Bhagavan. Just the divine one. The Lord means boss in English. And the Hindus don't do it that way. But now you see, I've arranged this general introduction, which I'm afraid will be familiar to some of you who attended my seminars before, but I've arranged this general introduction to raise the question, all right, if that's the way it is, how on earth are we going to arrange a transformation of man's consciousness so that he'll know it? Not just in theory, but something he feels in the same way as you feel what you take to be I at the present moment, confronting an external world. How will you transform that sensation? Because if you don't transform that sensation, you will not ever be fit to use technology. We shall continue to use our technology in a hostile spirit towards the external world, and we shall wreck the external world. We're busy doing it now. There is no necessity to abandon technology. We can't abandon it. But we can certainly use it in a different spirit. I've just been in the island of Ceylon, which is a garden, a beautiful, beautiful place, but it's completely undeveloped from a technical point of view. And it's in very bad economic circumstances because nobody wants to buy natural rubber anymore. It has no foreign exchange. It is very peaceful. But the change has got to come. So I discussed with one of the high members of the government the possibility that we could set up in Ceylon an experimental station which would serve not only India, eventually, and Africa, but us too. An institute of ecological technology where we could, in that experimental island, work out ways of production, of mechanization, automation, and so on, which would not ruin the island. And you have to do that sort of thing with a certain dedication, because one of the reasons why we make such a mess with technology is that the shareholders in any given corporation want to make a fast buck. Now, there's nothing wrong, you see, in wanting to be rich. There's nothing at all wrong in being rich. In fact, I think the world without rich people would be extraordinarily boring. The point is, you have to understand what riches are. And they are not money. Riches are land, clothes, food, houses, intelligence, energy, skill, iron, forests, gardens. Those are riches. But when you're concentrating, you see, only on making the buck, it doesn't occur to you that you're not really getting rich. You're just impoverishing yourself. It's like, when you up prices, the value of the dollar goes down. You're just on a rat race, on a treadmill. The faster it moves, it doesn't get anywhere. It doesn't even stay in the same place. So it is that kind again. You see, this is another example of confusing the symbol with the reality of the fallacy of misplaced concreteness, as Whitehead calls it. So we shall devote the rest of the seminar to discussing the various ways in which it is proposed that we bring about or assist the bringing about of that change in our perception and conception of our own existence, so that we can feel ourselves the way we are, as distinct from the way in which we've been told to feel ourselves. This is the special thing about Buddhism. Everything in Buddhism sounds negative. Let's put it this way. Let's suppose you engage yourself in a relationship with the Buddha, or with one. There are hundreds of Buddhas. One we call Gautama is just the historical Buddha that everybody knows about. But one Buddha leads to another, because as a result of his relationships with people, he turns them into Buddhas too, awakened people. Now you meet one of these people, and he's going to give you a rough time. But one of the Buddhas running around these days is Krishnamurti. And Krishnamurti absolutely destroys everybody's religion. Why do you believe this? Why are you hanging on to that? Why do you want to insist that this idea is so? See? And he shows you that all your fixed formulations, all the ideas to which you cling, are spurious. And Buddhism was one of the ways of doing just that. So one might say simply this to try and sum up what Buddhism is about. The word Buddha is derived from the root Bud in Sanskrit, B-U-D-H, which means to be awake. So the Buddha is the awakened man, the man who woke up. What does he wake up from? Obviously a dream. And what kind of a dream is this? Well, I would call it a state of hypnosis. And this state of hypnosis, although I'm using hypnosis in a rather archaic sense of the word, is a state of being entranced, spellbound, fascinated, and this is called, in Sanskrit, avidya. A-V-I-D-Y-A. Vidya is knowledge in Sanskrit. And it is the root from which we get videre in Latin, to see, and so vision in English. So putting the A in front of it means non. Avidya, not seeing, ignorance, where You see, but you ignore. Everything that you're not looking at. When you put the beak of a chicken on a white chalk line, and the chicken is fascinated with that and can't get away from the chalk line, that's avidya. So in the same way, our beaks were put on a chalk line when we were hypnotized into the notion of attending to life by conscious attention alone, by the spotlight to the exclusion of the floodlight. And so we began to imagine that we were separate individuals. What is called in Buddhism Sakhya Drishti, the view of separateness. And a Buddha is one who has overcome that. He is awakened from that illusion, from that state of hypnosis. And he knows that well, I can't put what he knows in any positive terms. Buddhism has no doctrines at all that you have to believe in. I don't care what background you come from, whether you're a Roman Catholic or one extreme or a logical positivist at the other. Both are clinging to something, you see? And so the method of Buddhism is to knock out the underpinnings and say, well, not only do we not believe in anything, we don't even believe in not believing in anything. You know, you crawl into a hole and pull the hole in after you. But in this case, you do the exact opposite of that. That's a defensive move, to crawl into a hole. In this way, you crawl into great space and then pull the space out after you. And to go through this is pretty rough, because you can do it on what seems at first to be a merely intellectual level. So you can engage a group of people in a discussion, and you can start, whenever they propose an idea that is their sort of guiding principle of life, you demolish it, show that it doesn't hold water. And step by step you unearth, by talking with them, what are the fundamental ideas they're operating on. Everybody is. Everybody is a philosopher. Everybody has metaphysics, although they may not know what it is, so they've never examined it. But by this method you bring it out, and you demolish it. And this suddenly, what seemed like a very nice intellectual discussion, turns into sheer murder. People get really anxious. They develop all the trembles and the symptoms of extreme anxiety. And so they finally say to the guru, to the teacher, well, heaven's sakes, what do you believe in?
Okay, I'm going to do a brief reading here. This is from C.G. Jung's Psychological Reflections by Yolan Jacoby. This is called The World of Values. A gift develops in inverse ratio to the maturation of the personality as a whole, and often one has the impression that a creative personality grows at the expense of the human being. Sometimes, indeed, there is such a discrepancy between the genius and his human qualities that one has to ask oneself whether a little less talent might not have been better. What, after all, is great talent beside moral inferiority? There are not a few gifted persons whose usefulness is paralyzed, not to say perverted, by their human shortcomings. A gift is not an absolute value. Rather, it is such a value only when the rest of the personality keeps pace with it. Nature, as we know, is not so lavish with her boons that she joins to high intelligence the gifts of the heart also. As a rule, where one is present, the other is missing, and where one capacity is present in perfection, it is generally at the cost of all the others. The best can be produced only by the best, and man by his conscientiousness and devotion. Cultural products can therefore easily stand for the psychological conditions of their production, that is, for those human virtues which alone make man capable of civilization. The genius will come through despite everything, for there is something absolute and indomitable in his nature. The so-called misunderstood genius is rather a doubtful phenomenon. Generally, he turns out to be a good-for-nothing who is forever seeking a soothing explanation of himself. Talent, on the other hand, can either be hampered, crippled and perverted, or fostered, developed and improved. The genius is as rare a bird as the phoenix, an apparition, not to be counted on consciously or unconsciously. Genius is something that by God's grace is there from the start in full strength. But talent is a statistical regularity and does not always have a dynamism to match. To rush ahead is to invite blows, and if you don't get them from the teacher, you will get them from fate, and generally from both. The gifted child will do well to accustom himself early to the fact that any excellence puts him in an exceptional position and exposes him to a great many risks, the chief of which is an exaggerated self-confidence. Against this, the only protection is humility and obedience, and even these do not always work. The artist's relative lack of adaptation turns out to his advantage. It enables him to follow his own yearnings far from the beaten path and to discover what it is that would meet the unconscious needs of his age. Thus, just as the one-sidedness of the individual's conscious attitude is corrected by reactions from the unconscious, so art represents a process of self-regulation in the life of nations and epochs. To be normal is the ideal aim for the unsuccessful, for all those who are still below the general level of adaptation. But for people of more than average ability, people who never found it difficult to gain successes and to accomplish their share of the world's work, for them the moral compulsion to be nothing but normal signifies the bed of Procrustes, deadly and insupportable boredom, a hell of sterility and hopelessness. The greatness of historical personalities has never lain in their abject submission to convention, but, on the contrary, in their deliverance from convention. They towered up like mountain peaks above the mass that still clung to its collective fears, its beliefs, laws, and systems, and boldly chose their own way. To the man in the street, it has always seemed miraculous that anyone should turn aside from the beaten track with its known destinations and strike out on the steep and narrow path leading into the unknown. Hence it was always believed that such a man, if not actually crazy, was possessed by a demon or a god. For the miracle of a man being able to act otherwise than as humanity has always acted could only be explained by the gift of demonic power or divine spirit. Only the mystics bring creativity into religion. Creative life always stands outside convention. That is why, when the mere routine of life predominates in the form of convention and tradition, there is bound to be a destructive outbreak of creative energy. This outbreak is a catastrophe only when it is a mass phenomenon, but never in the individual who consciously submits to these higher powers and serves them with all his strength. Every creative person is a duality or a synthesis of contradictory qualities. On the one side, he is a human being with a personal life, while on the other, he is an impersonal, creative process. As a human being, he may be sound or morbid, and his personal psychology can and should be explained in personal terms, but he can be understood as an artist only in terms of his creative achievement. The distortion of beauty and meaning by grotesque objectivity or equally grotesque reality is, in the insane, a consequence of the destruction of the personality. In the artist, it has a creative purpose. Far from his work being an expression of the destruction of his personality, the modern artist finds the unity of his artistic personality in destructiveness. What the artist and the insane have in common is what the artist and the insane have in common is common also to every human being, a restless creative fantasy which is constantly engaged in smoothing away the hard edges of reality. Anyone who observes himself carefully and unsparingly will know that there is something within him which would gladly hide and cover up all that is difficult and questionable in life in order to smooth a path for itself. Insanity gives it a free hand, and once it has gained the ascendancy, reality is veiled. More quickly or less, it becomes a distant dream, but the dream becomes a reality which holds the patient enchained wholly or in part, often for the rest of his life. We healthy people who stand with both feet in reality see only the ruin of the patient in this world, but not the richness of that side of the psyche which is turned away from us. If the meaning of a poetic work can be exhausted through the application of a theory of neurosis, then it was nothing but a pathological product in the first place, to which I would never concede the dignity of a work of art. Today, it is true, our taste has become so uncertain that often we no longer know whether a thing is art or a disease. A person must pay dearly for the divine gift of creative fire. It is as though each of us was born with a limited store of energy. In the artist, the strongest force is his makeup, that is, his creativeness. Will seize and all but monopolize this energy, leaving so little over that nothing of value can come of it. The creative impulse can drain him of his humanity to such a degree that the personal ego can exist only on a primitive or inferior level, and is driven to develop all sorts of defects, ruthlessness, selfishness, autoeroticism, vanity, and other infantile traits. These inferiorities are the only means by which it can maintain its vitality and prevent itself from being wholly depleted. The genius, too, has to bear the brunt of an outsized psychic complex if he can cope with it. He does so with joy. If he can't, he must painfully perform the symptomatic actions which his gift lays upon him. He writes, paints, and composes what he suffers. Great gifts are the fairest, and often the most dangerous, fruits on the tree of humanity. They hang on the weakest branches, which break easily. Nothing is so jealous as a truth. Problems of self-realization. The investigation of truth must begin afresh with each case, for each case is individual and not derivable from any preconceived formula. Each individual is a new experiment of life in her ever-changing moods and an attempt at a new solution or new adaptation. No doubt it is a great nuisance that mankind is not uniform, but compounded of individuals whose psychic structure spreads them over a span of at least 10,000 years. Hence there is absolutely no truth that does not spell salvation to one person and damnation to another. All universalisms get stuck in this terrible dilemma. In our delusion-ridden world, the truth is so precious that nobody wants to let it slip merely for the sake of a few so-called exceptions which refuse to toe the line, and whoever doubts this truth is invariably looked on as a faithless reprobate, so that a note of fanaticism and intolerance everywhere creeps into the discussion. And yet each of us can carry the torch of knowledge but a part of the way until another takes it from him. If only we could understand all this impersonally, could understand that we are not the personal creators of our truths, but only their exponents, mere mouthpieces of the day's psychic needs, then much venom and bitterness might be spared, and we should be able to perceive the profound and superpersonal continuity of the human mind. Conviction easily turns into self-defense and is seduced into rigidity, and this is inimical to life. The test of a firm conviction is its elasticity and flexibility. Like every other exalted truth, it thrives best on the admission of its errors. Okay, I'm going to take a reading break and then I'm going to read two other little books. Here we go.
And so they finally say to the guru, the teacher, well, heaven's sakes, what do you believe in? He says, I'm not proposing anything. I didn't set anything up. Well, how do you navigate? How do you exist? This is what's the problem. Because you see, what we're moving from, as I suggested a moment ago, we're moving from a state of affairs
we're accustomed to navigation on land to a state of affairs where we're in the water. And this is very critical for today because the impact of modern science on Western culture has been very similar to this. In Christianity, we sing hymns like How Firm a Foundation and Rock of Ages, Ein feste Burg, a mighty fortress is our God. We've something to stand on. The church's one foundation is Jesus Christ, her Lord, you know. It is this firm thing. All right, suddenly all that disappears or becomes implausible. And we find ourselves swimming or sinking. Now, when you find that you're living in the midst of the universe of relativity, well, there's nothing you can hold on to. You've got to learn how to swim. And to swim, you've got to relax and stop grabbing. So this is what Buddhism does. When it says it's the art of let go, non-attachment. Non-attachment doesn't mean that you lose your appetite for dinner. It means simply that you stop grabbing. You get rid of stickiness. Stickiness in the sense of, for example, when a wheel has an axle that's too tight and it sticks. You want to loosen it up a bit. You don't want it too loose. You don't want it floppy. Like a lot of people, when you tell them to relax, they become like a limp rag. It's not relaxing. Relaxing is having still tone.
He definitely knows white trash.
But it's middle way.
He definitely knows white trash.
So this is entirely what Buddhism is about. It's about learning. For example, if I may put it in a vivid way, when you were born, you were kicked off a precipice, and there's nothing that can stop you falling. And although there are a lot of rocks falling with you, with trees growing on them and all sorts of things like that, you can cling to one of those rocks if you like, as it goes down with you for safety. But it's not safe. Nothing is safe. Everything is falling apart. Everything is in a state of change. And there's no way of stopping it. And when you are really resigned to that, when you really accept that, then there's nothing left to be afraid of. And when there's nothing left to be afraid of, and you've given everything up, and you know that even, a lot of people in religion cling to suffering because they know they are right as long as they hurt. Oh, I bless the good Lord for my boils, for my mental and bodily pains. For without them my faith all congeals, and I am doomed to hell's ne'er-ending flames. There are a lot of people who know that they're right so long as they suffer. But that's an illusion too. Even suffering offers no security. Even suicide offers no security in Buddhism, you see. There is no security at all. You simply have to face this fact that everything is in flux and go with it. And so, the question then is simply how to convince people of this, if anybody wants to be convinced. It's not the sort of thing you shove down people's throats. You don't convert them to this. Because if they don't want to be converted, they won't let go. So, Buddhism therefore involves a very special relationship between the questioner and the person to whom the question is addressed, the pupil and the teacher. And now then, Buddhism came to China as early as 60 AD, but didn't at that time make a very great impression. It was not until about the year 400 that a very great Sanskrit scholar by the name of Kumarajiva came and started teaching Chinese scholars Sanskrit. And they worked with him to translate Sanskrit into Chinese. And they translated the Buddhist scriptures. They didn't, of course, do them all at that time, because the Buddhist scriptures occupy about as much space as the Encyclopedia Britannica. In fact, a little more. The Indians are great talkers. Well, anyway, they found that when they translate this into Chinese, you had to find equivalent Chinese words for the Sanskrit ideas, and they found these from the Taoist philosophy. Well, slowly then, Indian attitudes began to be modified by Chinese attitudes because the Chinese read into these translations Taoist meanings. So things got a little altered. Now here came the alteration that is crucial. First of all, in Indian Buddhism, there's very little humor. But Chinese life is full of humor. The greatest philosopher of China, Zhuangzi, is the only philosopher who is, I think, in the whole world, who is profoundly humorous. There's a book in the Modern Library, published by Random House, called The Wisdom of Lao Tzu. And this is translated by Lin Yu Tang. And he includes, along with the translation of Lao Tzu, huge sections of Chuang-Tzu. And this is absolutely fascinating because of the humor of it. Indian Buddhism had very little humor. Some, yes, but very little. Next, it was all tied up with celibacy, which to the Chinese was absolutely incomprehensible. Because Chinese civilization is rigged around the family to a far greater extent than ours is, which is saying something. And they just couldn't see any point or any wisdom in celibacy. When Buddhism came to China, it still retained a certain element of celibacy, but for different reasons than Hindu. The Chinese way of celibacy is not that sex is naughty, but it's terribly convenient not to have a wife. In other words, the ideal of the uninvolved life has a certain appeal, but they could never get through into their heads the notion that sexual desire was bad, which has always played a fairly strong role in Hindu thinking. Not in the same way as it has in the West. The Hindus don't have a guilt take on it. But they think that it dissipates your spiritual energies. And you see, in yoga, they envisage the idea that at the base of the spine, there is what is called the kundalini, the serpent power, or the force of psychic energy. And so long as it remains at the base of the spine, this force is dissipated in sexuality. Now, yoga is to suck this thing up the spine and get it into the head. And so then you withdraw from the manifestation of this energy, or the dissipation of it, in sexuality, and it's put on a higher level. Only, which end is up. You can do it the other way too. They have what's called the right-hand way of doing it and the left-hand way of doing it. But I'm not going to go into that now. But the Chinese didn't see it that way. They couldn't see that it was a dissipation of energy. So what they wanted to aim at was a way of living Buddhism and being awake, but at the same time remaining active in the ordinary life of the world. It's what's called, in their phraseology, being king on the outside and a sage on the inside. It has been well said that Buddhism is Hinduism stripped for export. You see, Hinduism is a way of life that goes far, far beyond what we in the West call religion. It involves cookery, everyday family life, house building, just everything. It's the whole Hindu way of life. And so you can't export it, just as you can't export Shinto from Japan. It belongs to the soil and the culture. But there are essential elements in it that can be transmitted outside the culture of India. Managing practical affairs, completely involved in whatever life is, but at the same time, inwardly living on top of the mountain, being cloud-hidden, whereabouts unknown. So, Chinese Zen is the preeminent expression of this, because it is the mixture of Indian Buddhism and Chinese Taoism, plus a certain Confucian practicality. Zen developed out of the work of Kumarajiva, came into China, as I said, 400 or a little before. And then you suddenly get into a kind of vertigo, dizziness, that you feel suddenly that you're no longer standing on the firm ground, but that the universe has suddenly turned into water, or worse, air, or worse still, empty space. There's nothing to hold on to. I see often when one discusses religion with people, they say, well, I need a religion because I need something to hold on to. Well, that's the way not to use a religion. Because if you use religion as something to hold on to, your religion is an expression of unfaith. Faith is where you let go, not where you hold on. When the cat falls off the tree, the cat relaxes, you see. And so the cat lands with a soft thud and doesn't get hurt because the cat has faith. But if the cat in midair were suddenly to grab itself with all 4 feet and tighten up, see, it'd be hurt. And that's what people do when they say, rock of ages kept for me, let me hide myself in thee. They want something to hold on to, you see. And that is unfaith. So the method of Buddhism, it's called the Dharma, doesn't mean the law, it means the method. The method is to knock the stuffing out of you, to take away everything to which you cling, to cleanse you completely of all beliefs, all ideas, all concepts of what life is about, so that you are completely let go. Doesn't, as it were, look over your shoulder and wander off to something else.
I need your creative support.
Somebody who, first of all, he's completely here, and he's so much here that you can't phase him. Now, this idea of phasing is crucial in Zen. You see, I referred a moment ago to attachment, that Buddhism is living free from attachments. And I made the point that this is not abandoning a sense of a good appetite for dinner, but it's stopping sticking. In psychological jargon, you don't block. A mind of no hesitation, it's sometimes called. In Chinese, the phrase mo zhi chu is used, of going straight ahead. So supposing somebody walks up to you on the street and says, are you saved? Now, most of us who are intelligent people feel embarrassed by such a question. You know, what's this wretched Salvation Army person or Jehovah's Witness doing asking me whether I'm saved or not? And we're all a little bit, you know, what do you do with a nut like that? So, but as in Zen, this is a perfect moment to respond, see? To the most embarrassing question, are you saved? But Zen comes back in a very funny way. In Zen, one doesn't give philosophical answers to a question like that. You give practical answers. I had a boiled egg this morning. Because whenever you are asked about matters sacred, theoretical and philosophical, you answer in terms of things earthy and practical. But then on the other hand, when you're asked about things earthy and practical, you answer in terms of things religious and philosophical. Is dinner ready? You know? Who's asking this question? Who are you? So, this is then the flavor of Zen. Bodhidharma is supposed to have meditated so long that his legs fell off. And he's usually drawn this way, something like this anyway. It looks like a shmoo. But in Japan, you buy these toys that are darumas. And they are so weighted in here that you can never knock them over. You can bat it on the floor, bat it this way, bat it that way, but it always comes up again. And so the poem says, 7 times down, 8 times up, such is life. So this is the principle of not being phased, not being attached. So to play the game, you can't phase me. This is very important in the art of lifemanship, fundamental gamesmanship. Because you see, when the Zen monks moved into Kyoto, they took over the best part of town. Simply fantastic how this happened. The beautiful hills were occupied.
Okay, I'm gonna read some Aleister Crowley here. I'm gonna create 3-minute shorts on YouTube, so I'm gonna restart all my YouTubes, and so here's the rest of Alan.
By the brigands who later became the Japanese nobility. The great daimyos, these were the toughest characters. And the Zen monks played a game with them, which was that, you possess all these lands and you're powerful and so on, but so what? It's all falling apart. Then what will you do? Well, they said, that's too bad, we don't know. And the Zen monk said, you haven't got the hang of the thing, you see. So they found that they couldn't terrify Zen monks. That they played all sorts of tricks, but the Zen monks were better masters at it. See, supposing you say to somebody, look, I'm not afraid of you. You can do anything you like. You can kill me or anything at all. But if I go and kill the fellow who says this, I'll never find out whether he was afraid or not. So they outfaced these people and said, we have a secret, you see, that you don't have. And we'll teach your servitors to be great warriors, because they'll learn the secret too, and they won't be afraid of anything. And this is what they did. And so the daimyos, the noblemen, built great monasteries for these Zen masters and monks on their best land. The finest artists of Japan made gold leaf screens for almost every room in the place. And although nobody owns anything individually, the community owns it collectively with the protection of the daimyos. And they had a tremendous scene going. Now, to us that sounds extremely weird, even immoral. You don't expect religious people to do things like that. No, I know you don't. If the religious people are self-righteous and have no humor. But these people didn't go around pretending that they were specially good. They didn't dupe themselves. They were people who understood what human nature is. That in every one of us there is an element of irreducible rascality. In Jewish theology, this is called the Yetzer Hara. Yezerhara. The Yetzer Hara. The element of irreducible rascality, which was created by God. Because God has one too. And that's why when you were really affectionate with somebody else, when, for example, men, I don't know what women do in their private lives between each other, but men, as we all know, say to someone they're very fond of, why, you old bastard. Just like that, there's a certain way of saying to a person, there's a certain glitter recognition. So there's a Zen poem which says, when two Zen masters meet each other on the road, they need no introduction. When a thief meets a thief, they recognize each other instantly. And this goes back, you see, again into the heart of Chinese philosophy. That human nature is considered to be basically good. And even the rascally elements of it are good. They're the sort of salt in the human stew. There has to be this little thing, that human passions, and that the natural contentiousness and greed, or whatever that we have, is an essential element in our makeup. And that when people lose sight of that, they go mad. Nothing, for example, is more dangerous than a saint. That is, an unconscious saint who thinks that he is right and who endeavors to live an absolutely pure life and to eliminate all selfish thoughts. Somebody who undertakes that task is going to be a menace to all around because he loses his humor. He loses his real humility, which is knowing that after all, since we are humans, we have certain needs. We need to eat, we need sex, we need this, that, and the other. And this sort of has a quality of humor to it. And so this is why in Zen art, the sages are always drawn to look a little bit like bums. You know that Putai, or Hote as he's called, what's called the laughing Buddha, the fat Buddha with an immense belly, and carrying around an enormous bag of rubbish, into which he indiscriminately puts anything he finds around and then gives it away to children. This is the sort of type which the Chinese call the old rogue.
Okay, this is from Orpheus, Collected Works of Aleister Crowley, page 200. O light of Apollo, O joy of the sky, we see thee, we follow, we draw to thee nigh. We see the unclouded, whose hearts have been thinned, whose souls have been shrouded, whose ears are bedinned by hell's clamor. How did the strength that has sinned, availed in the crowded abodes of the wind, by lightning of rapture, the soul of my song, my love doth recapture, lead up to the long years and blithe measure of summer and ease, linger at leisure for passion and peace, sadness and pleasure, relent and release, a torrent, a treasure, a garden of Greece. Celine, our sister, our lover and friend, thy light hath long missed her, that hour hath an end. All eons the squander, we chance at our will. We may woo, work, or wander through time to our fill, hither or yonder, by fountain or hill, each day growing fonder, each night growing still. Bright Hermes behind me, Caduceus armed guide, shall he blind me? My spirit be charmed, a song shall not swerve her, its glory shall shade, respite deserve her, from gulfs of the dead. Ah me! Let it nerve her these conduits to tread that lead to the fervor of earth overhead. Fire, thou dear splendor of uppermost space, turn to me tender thine emerald face, thy rubies be blended with diamond light, thy sapphires be splendid, extended to sight, the portals be rended that govern the night, and the guardians bended to magical might. Aware of the glorious garb of the globe, don thy victorious glittering robe. The sun is before us, the moon is above. Rise and adore us, ye dwellers thereof. The muses restore us to Greece as we move, swell the wild chorus of welcome and love.
The old rogue as a type of this poet, sage, monk, and scholar, was greatly admired. He's the non-violent rebel, the rolling stone, the free man, or in our words, the joker. The joker, you see, is a card that can play any role in the pack. So then, Zen developed in China after Bodhidharma's time and came to a sort of golden age in the Tang and Sung dynasties. The golden age of Zen lies between 713 AD and approximately 1100, 1200. 11 to 1200. That's the great creative period in which all the marvelous masters emerged and during which Zen exercised a profound influence on the development of Chinese poetry, painting, calligraphy, and scholarship. Then, between 11 and 1200, it shifted to Japan and underwent a new development, rather different in quality and in tone. And after it had done that for some curious reason, which is a very complicated historical question, it slowly faded away in China, so that as we find it today, it is principally a Japanese phenomenon, and it is slowly fading in Japan and slowly growing in the West. It's a very funny thing. And now then, let me indicate what Zen training, what its method is. How does it work?
O light of Apollo, O joy of the sky, we see thee, we follow, we draw to thee nigh. We see the unclouded, whose hearts have been thinned, whose souls have been shrouded, whose ears are bedimmed by hell's clamor. How did the strength that has sinned avail in the crowded abodes of the wind? By lightning of rapture, the soul of my song, my love doth recapture, lead up to the long years and blithe measure of summer and ease, linger at leisure for passion and peace. Sadness and pleasure, relent and release, a torrent, a treasure, a garden of Greece. Celine, our sister, our lover and friend, thy light hath long missed her, that hour hath an end. All eons the squander we chance at our will. We may woo, work, or wander through time to our fill, hither or yonder, by fountain or hill, each day growing fonder, each night growing still. Bright Hermes behind me, Caduceus' arm guide, shall he blind me? My spirit be charmed, the song shall not swerve her, its glory shall shed respite, deserve her from gulfs of the dead. Ah me, Let it nerve her these conduits to tread that lead to the fervor of earth overhead. Fire, thou dear splendor of uppermost space, turn to me tender thine emerald face. Thy rubies be blended with diamond light. Thy sapphires be splendid, extended to sight. The portals be rended that govern the night, and the guardians bended to magical might. Aware of the glorious garb of the globe, don thy victorious glittering robe. The sun is before us, the moon is above. Rise and adore us, ye dwellers thereof. The muses restore us to Greece as we move. O light of Apollo, O joy of the sky, we see thee, we follow, we draw to thee nigh. We see the unclouded, whose hearts have been thinned, whose souls have been shrouded, whose ears are bedimmed by hell's clamor. How did the strength that has sinned avail in the crowded abodes of the wind? By lightning of rapture, the soul of my song, my love doth recapture, lead up to the long years and blithe measure of summer and ease, linger at leisure for passion and peace. Sadness and pleasure, relent and release, a torrent, a treasure, a garden of Greece. Celine, our sister, our lover and friend, thy light hath long missed her, that hour hath an end. All eons a squander, we chance at our will. We may woo, work, or wander through time to our fill, hither or yonder, by fountain or hill, each day growing fonder, each night growing still. Bright Hermes behind me, Caduceus' armed guide, surely blind me. My spirit be charmed, the song shall not swerve her, its glory shall shed respite, deserve her from gulfs of the dead. Ah me, let it nerve her these conduits to tread that lead to the fervor of earth overhead. Fire, thou dear splendor of uppermost space, turn to me tender thine emerald face. Thy rubies be blended with diamond light. Thy sapphires be splendid, extended to sight. The portals be rended that govern the night, and the guardians bended to magical might. Aware of the glorious garb of the globe, don thy victorious glittering robe. The sun is before us, the moon is above. Rise and adore us, ye dwellers thereof. The muses restore us to Greece as we move, swell the wild chorus of welcome and love.
And then I play material. Cheap like.
Two men were traveling together as part of a group. One of them had a belt filled with gold. The world is a bad place for a person who doesn't understand it. Once he discovers the world properly, it will no longer have a hold over him.
Is there, expanding it in such a way that people start thinking more of peace and enjoying this beautiful life versus being in the desert, being pulled to be part of a rebellion to fight and die for Allah and fight and die for Bin Laden and all of these different people. This has happened all across, and these are some of the programs that these international development entities do. It's about influencing. And we see that in those areas.
May I interject for a second? So I think he actually made like a really good argument, right? And that happened, Miriam, because at that time around 2002, they decided we needed to innovate. We needed to do things differently, right? So they came up with these programs and this approach. Well, here we are 23 years later, and
anyway, like I was saying, quit talking over me.
Nigga, Lil Wayne was bigger than Drake around the time they made Poetic Justice. Lil Wayne was still.
Bottom fucking line.
Nicki was bigger than Drake. Like,
having something super unique, and but you know, you get to know material, right? You get to know what you can, like the good materials that can maybe go in the dryer and what can't, and like what material needs to be hung or you know, flat or whatever.
Power calls you racist. Power calls you racist. You power calls you racist. You fucking cracker. I'm gonna rape you in your.
Unfortunately, we can't. Unfortunately, we can't.
You can. Well, thank God you can, because you're gonna get this. You're gonna
Come on,
feel
Suad,
it.
talk your truth so we can move on to the
So for me, yeah, he said the first thing he said was Margaret Thatcher. Yeah, he named Margaret Thatcher. You know what Margaret Thatcher did? It's the same thing what Donald Trump is about to go through.
Marshall, shut the fuck up.
How about Dominic, you click on the link at the top of the applicant coin and you have
How about you shut the fuck up?
Oh, so Dominic, you're tired of hearing me talk, but you've been able to
Please, shut the fuck up.
Oh my god, my finger slipped on the mute button. I don't want to press it a whole bunch, but just give me a second. I know it doesn't say in the title PRR today, but politics, religion, and race is typically what we talk about. Conversational debates. In order for a debate to happen, at least two people need to speak, but like not at the same time. Yeah, just remember that. I don't want to have to start moderating.
Cool. Lion, look at my PTR. Is this the fucking guy that you're talking about?
put the picture in. I don't see. Let me see.
Doctor.
No, that is not him at all. This is the guy. Hold on. I'll even read out all of his credentials.
No, I found him too. He was a curly-haired man.
So, Marshall, you told me to put this link up top. It's regarding what, to prove Dominique wrong, or? I guess, Dominique, you were talking about something, and then Marshall found a video about what you were talking about.
I don't know exactly what Marshall's problem is with me, but he need to cut it out. Because if he keep coming off the mic talking to me like that, I'm gonna have a problem with him.
Dominique, you talked to
What talking about?
Real simple. I was pointing
out.
Dominique,
shut up. Grown men are doing grown men shit. Lion, where's the PTR you were talking about? Because this is the man that was born in Prussia. The other guy that you're thinking of was a Roman emperor in the 900th, in the 9th century, 10th century. And that guy looked racially ambiguous, probably.
Well, that's what I found. Original statement.
These are two different guys. That's
what did I say about Germany?
For him who has completed the journey, who is free of sorrows and all else, who has broken off all chains. The mindful put forth great effort. They do not remain content in the household life, but leave their homes behind, just as swans leave a muddy lake. Arahants do not hoard. They take a right view of eating, focused on deliverance and void. They leave no trace like the path of birds in the sky. He who is free from obsessions, eating simply, clear-headed and focused on liberation like a migrating bird, leave no trace of a track in the sky. Even the gods delight in the presence of one who has freed himself from pride and mental obsessions, who has his senses under control like horses trained by an expert trainer. Done with the round of rebirths, he is as accepting as the earth, as firm as a doorpost, placid as a pond, free of mud and dutiful. Whoever has reached a state of freedom through perfect wisdom, peaceful and unshakable, is non-violent in his mind, his speech, his action. Whoever is in touch with the infinite, free of attachment, desireless, is the highest among men. Delightful is the place of where the saints dwell, be it village or forest, cavern or open field. Delightful are forests where more worldly men find no joy, being free of the pull of desire. Saints who seek no worldly pleasures find delight in such places. This is called Thousands. This is the 8th chapter of the Dhammapada, Sayings of the Buddha. A single wise word bringing peace to the listener is worth more than 1,000 speeches full of empty words. A single verse full of meaning, bringing peace to the listener is worth more than 1,000 verses full of empty words. One may recite 100 verses full of vain descriptions, but a single verse bringing peace to the listener is.
Kitover, things are really good. And think about it this way, you know, neurodivergent characters, they do something very, very fantastic.
Break out of here. I do want to acknowledge.
Because this is.
I said before, what is involved is a dialogue, an interchange between two people. One who has defined himself as a student, and has therefore defined the other as the teacher. There is no teacher until a student arrives, no problem until a question is raised. So students create teachers. you ask a question, you get 30 blows with a stick. If you don't ask a question, you get 30 blows with a stick. Because you put yourself in statu pupillari. You've defined yourself as having a problem. Now, nobody really has a problem. But the Maya, the game of life, is to pretend that you do. Going back to fundamental Hinduism, the Godhead, or the Self, pretends it's all of us, and so gets lost, and so has a ball. Dreams all that's going on. So, when you're on your way out from the dream, it suddenly occurs to you that you have a problem.
Because this is the man that was born in Prussia. The other guy that you're thinking of was a Roman emperor in the 900th, in the 9th century, 10th century. And that guy looked racially ambiguous, probably. That's not an original statement. These are two different guys. That's all journeys. No journey for him who has completed the journey, who is free of sorrows and all else, who has broken off all chains. The mindful put forth great effort. They do not remain content. I know the saying is to do that shit. You have more background on that. Justice ones leave the money lane. Arahants do not hoard. They take a right view of eating. Focused on deliverance and void, they leave no trace like the path of birds in the sky. The honor paid to the he who is free from obsessions, eating simply, liberation like a migrating bird, leave no trace of a track in the sky. Even the gods delight in the presence of one who has freed himself from pride and mental obsessions, who has his senses under control like horses trained by an expert trainer. The meditation on Aleph. I am without beginning, without end, older than night or day, younger than the babe newborn, brighter than light, darker than darkness, beyond all things and creatures, yet fixed in the heart of everyone. From me the shining worlds flow forth to me. The meditation on Aleph. I am without beginning, without end, older than night or day, younger than the babe newborn, brighter than light, darker than darkness, beyond all things.
You would like to get out of this. So, one such student went to a Zen master and he said, we have to dress and eat every day. And how do we get out of all that? In other words, you might ask the question in this way. We have to work and get up Monday morning, go to the office, do all this routine, sell something and so on. How do we get out of the rat race? So we have to dress and eat every day, and how do we get rid of all that? The master said, we dress, we eat. The student said, I don't understand. He replied, if you don't understand, put on your clothes and eat your food. This is the kind of dialogue so characteristic of man. So the position is this. The master, on being approached by a student about the problem of life, says, I have nothing to teach you. I'm a Zen master. I have nothing to say. Zen is not words. And furthermore, everything is perfectly clear. There was a Confucian scholar who went to a Zen master and said, what is your secret teaching? And he replied, there is a saying in your own teacher Confucius which explains it all. Don't you remember when Confucius said to his disciples, do you suppose that I'm concealing something from you? I've held nothing back. And the scholar didn't get this. So a few days later they were walking together in the mountains and they passed a wild laurel bush. And the Zen master said to the Confucian scholar, do you smell it? He said, yes. He said, you see, I'm holding nothing back. So the position of the Zen master is, there is nothing to tell you. There is no, we're not offering you any panacea, any solution, any doctrine, any big goodie to the problem of life. Because the problem is an illusion. Well, then the student under these circumstances thinks, well, this is some sort of come on. He testing my sincerity. And of course the nothing which he has to teach is the mystery of the great void. See, he doesn't take it as meaning just plain old ordinary nothing, but the great void. And so he persists. And the teacher makes him persist until he gets way out on a limb. He has to persist so much that he practically dedicates his life, saying, just as the way Huayca symbolically cut off his arm. The student is put in the position of dedicating his life to solving this thing and getting what that teacher has. And of course there wasn't anything all along, but he's been put in that position. So then, once he's in statu pupillari, once he becomes a student, he's put through all kinds of hoops. They make him learn to meditate, to sit cross-legged, practice zazen, and then they also add to the trouble by asking impossible questions, which are called koan. And these questions are palpably absurd. What they're saying, essentially, at least the elementary koan, if they're all concerned with us, are requests for behavior on the part of the student that will be perfectly genuine. In other words, show me who you are. Now, wait a minute, I don't want to see any social definition of you. I don't want to know your name, your address, who your parents were. I want to see the absolutely authentic you. It's like existentialists talk about authentic being. Or it might be in the same way a confessor, father confessor in a Christian sense, could say, now, give me a really good confession. What is the bad thing you've really done? And you confess to him adulteries and murders and thefts and sacrilege and blasphemies and cussing and so on. And he says, oh, no, come off it. Those are only trivial sins. Come on now, what is the really awful thing you've done? What, me? This is the backwards way of doing exactly the same thing as Zen Master is doing. Saying, who are you really? Are you anybody? Is anybody home? Have you got anything? And they do things like making you shout. See, this word is a very important word in Zen. Nothing. Mu. It's represented by the empty circle. The word mu in Japanese. So they say, now say it. Say mu. Mu! You know, with all your guts going into it. They say, no. You don't know how to say that. Come on, that's feeble. That's nothing. Let's really say it. They have every kind of trick like that to show you that the more you make an effort to be genuine, the more of a fool you become. And they tie you up in knots until you're desperate. There was an American Zen student who was on a Fulbright, and I gave him a year to study Zen. And he started to panic because he'd only a month to go and he hadn't realized it. And he knew he had to, and he went to the Zen master and said, damn it, he said, look, I've only got a month left. And the master said, all right, we'll have what we call O-session. O-session is an intense meditation practice where you only sleep 3 hours a night sort of thing, and you meditate all the rest of the time. Let's go, let's really do it. And every day, 3 times, you come to me and present the answer to your Zen problem, your koan. And it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse, and he got more and more desperate. That here was this Fulbright going to end, and he wouldn't know what Zen was all about. Well, practically on the last day, he suddenly saw there was nothing to see. It's all right the way it is. And this tremendous illumination, this load off his head, was of course what the master was trying to make him do. But now in the ordinary way, if you're not on a Fulbright, and you but stay around further, and the master will then play a trick on you. You'll say, now that's wonderful. You got your foot in at the gate. You realize there's nothing to realize. You realize the void. There's nothing to cling to, you see. There are no barriers, no blocks in any direction. It's all transparent. But that is just the beginning. And it's all a necessity now for you to discipline yourself much harder, to make great efforts, really to get through. So, what are you going to do about that?
Providing this room with high quality wisdom information.
Students may say, well,
as opposed to all the useless bullshit.
I've had enough. I think I've realized what it's all about. And he goes away. Sometime later, he begins to worry. Because, you see, the great emotional relief of this insight begins to wear off. And life begins to look ordinary again. And they had, maybe I did miss something. That was a very good master I went to. I better go back. So back he goes. And the teacher comes on very...
Okay, I'm going to read from Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching. The energy of the universe. The way of heaven is like a well that is used but never used up. It is eternal, and the creator of everything in the world. In it all sharpness is dulled, all tangles untied, all glare shut out, all dust swept away. Where did it come from? I do not know. It is older than eternity. The very best are like water. They benefit all things without trying to. They are content with low places that others dislike. That is why water is so near to heaven's way. The very best in their homes love simplicity. In their hearts love what is deep. In their words love what is true. In friendship love what is gentle. The very best in the world love what is peaceful. In government love what is orderly. In deeds love what is right. In actions love what is kindly. It is because they do not compete with others that they are loved by all. Silence. Those who know don't speak. Those who speak don't know. Close your mouth. Dull your senses. Smooth what's sharp. Untie all tangles. Shut out all glare. Wipe away all dust. This is your real self. Be on heaven's way without desires or dislikes, benefit or harm, honor or disgrace. This is being heaven's highest for one under heaven. Knowing, without leaving his door, the wise one knows everything under heaven. Without looking out his window, he knows the way of heaven. For the farther one travels, the less one knows. Therefore the wise one arrives without going. Sees heaven without looking, does nothing, yet achieves everything. Just be ordinary. It is because people say some things that are beautiful that the idea of ugliness exists. It is because people say some things are good that the idea of evil exists. Being and non-being come out of each other, difficult and easy are part of each other. Long and short define each other, high and low determine each other, sharp and flat harmonize each other, front and back follow each other. Therefore the wise one acts without doing, shows without saying, accepts without reservation, receives but doesn't possess, raises but doesn't own, guides but doesn't depend, succeeds but isn't proud, and for this very reason he is successful. Being still, the dark is the root of the light.
The energy of the universe. The way of heaven is like a well. The energy of the universe. But never used up. The way of heaven is like a well that is used but never used up. It is eternal, but never creator of everything is eternal. In it all sharpness is dull.
and stick with it. Why should I take you back? Oh, Master, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was young and inexperienced, and now I've come to my senses. So the teacher finally says, all right, you're on probation. So again, he starts another koan. And this one comes in from a completely different point of view. And he's got others that come from this way, and from this way, and from this way, and from this way. And the point is always, so long as I can beguile you as teacher into thinking there's something you can get, you need to study with me. When I can no longer fool you into thinking that there's something to get out of life, you'll know that you're life. You don't get something out of it, you're it. But so long as you can be phased and you can be taken in.
The honor paid to the one who has achieved self-mastery for one single instant is worth more than monthly offerings of 1,000 pieces of gold. Honoring the one who has achieved self-mastery for one single instant is worth more than living in the forest, tending the sacred fire for 100 years. Making offerings for glory and recognition is not 1/4 as worthy as honoring the upright. Whoever shows reverence and respect for the aged is rewarded fourfold, with long life, beauty, happiness, and strength. Even a single day of a life lived virtuously and meditatively is worth more than 100 years lived wantonly and without discipline. A single day's life of a wise and contemplative man is worth more than 100 years lived wantonly and without. The energy of the universe. The way of heaven is like a well that is used but never used up. It is eternal, and the creator of everything in the world. In it all sharpness is dulled, all tangles untied, all glare shut out, all dust swept away. Where did it come from? I do not know. It is older than eternity. The very best are like water. They benefit all things without trying to. They are content with low places that others dislike. That is why water is so near to heaven's way. The very best in their homes love simplicity, in their hearts love what is deep. In their words love what is true, in friendship love what is gentle. The very best in the world love what is peaceful, in government love what is orderly, in deeds love what is right, in actions love what is timely. It is because they do not compete with others that they are loved by all. Silence. Those who know don't speak, those who speak don't know. Close your mouth, dull your senses, smooth what's sharp, untie all tangles, shut out all glare, wipe away all dust. This is your real self. Be on heaven's way without desires or dislikes, benefit or harm, honor or disgrace. This is being heaven's highest for one under heaven. Knowing, without leaving his door, the wise one knows everything under heaven. Without looking out his window, he knows the way of heaven. But the farther one travels, the less one knows. Therefore, the wise one arrives without going, sees heaven without looking, does nothing, yet achieves everything. Just be ordinary. It is because people say some things that are beautiful and the idea of ugliness exists. It is because people say some things are good that the idea of evil exists. Being and non-being come out of each other, difficult and easy are part of each other. Long and short define each other, high and low determine each other, sharp and flat harmonize each other, front and back follow each other. Therefore the wise one acts without doing, shows without saying, accepts without reservation, receives but doesn't possess, raises but doesn't own, guides but doesn't depend, succeeds but isn't proud, and for this very reason he is successful. Being still, the dark is
happiness lies in wait for happiness, but who is aware that the highest good is
but never used up. It is eternal.
The teacher. You need a teacher. So in the end, when the student no longer needs...
The energy of the universe. The way of heaven is like a well that is used but never used up. It is eternal, and the creator of everything in the world. In it all sharpness is dulled, all tangles untied, all glare shut out, all dust swept away. Where did it come from? I do not know. It is older than eternity. The very best are like water. They benefit all things without trying to. They are content with low places that others dislike. That is why water is so near to heaven's way. The very best in their homes love simplicity, in their hearts love what is deep. In their words love what is true, in friendship love what is gentle. The very best in their world love what is peaceful, in government love what is orderly, in deeds love what is right, in actions love what is kindly. It is because they do not compete with others that they are loved by all. Silence. Those who know don't speak, those who speak don't know. Close your mouth, dull your senses, smooth what's sharp, untie all tangles, shut out all glare, wipe away all dust. This is your real self. Be on heaven's way without desires or dislikes, benefit or harm, honor or disgrace. This is being heaven's highest for one under heaven. Knowing, without leaving his door, the wise one knows everything under heaven. Without looking out his window, he knows the way of heaven. But the farther one travels, the less one knows. Therefore, the wise one arrives without going. Sees heaven without looking, does nothing, yet achieves everything. Just be ordinary. It is because people say some things that are beautiful that the idea of ugliness exists. It is because people say some things are good that the idea of evil exists. Being and non-being come out of each other, difficult and easy are part of each other. Long and short define each other, high and low determine each other, sharp and flat harmonize each other, front and back follow each other. Therefore the wise one acts without doing, shows without saying, accepts without reservation, receives but doesn't possess, raises but doesn't own, guides but doesn't depend, succeeds but isn't proud, and for this very reason he is successful.
Just be ordinary. It is because people say some things that are beautiful that the idea of ugliness exists. It is because people say some things are good that the idea of evil exists. Being and non-being come out of each other. Difficult and easy are part of each other. Long and short define each other, high and low determine each other, sharp and flat harmonize each other, front and back follow each other. Therefore the wise one acts without doing, shows without saying, accepts without reservation, receives but doesn't possess, raises but doesn't own, guides but doesn't depend, succeeds but isn't proud, and for this very reason he is successful. Being still, the dark is the root of the light, the still is the source of all motion, though the wise one travels all day. Though the wise one travels all day, he never leaves his heart. However beautiful the view, he stays serenely quiet. How foolish is a great lord who runs around like a fool, losing himself to all the world and the chance of heaven. Moderation, stretch a bow to the very full, and your wish you'd stopped in time. Grind a sword to its sharpest edge, and you'll find it soon grows dull. When gold and jade fill your house, you'll find they can't be safely guarded. Wealth and fame bring pride, which brings ruin in its train. When your work is done, then stop, such is heaven's way. Winners, the best charioteers, don't rush ahead. The best fighters don't show their strength. The greatest leaders win without a fight. The richest salesmen act with great humility. This is the power that comes with not fighting. This is the way that heaven uses people, and this is the way to win. Pushing, he who stands on tiptoe isn't steady. He who pushes ahead doesn't go far. He who tries to be a star clouds his own way. He who defines himself cannot be distinct. He who boasts of what he'll do cannot succeed. He who's proud of his own work creates nothing that will last. This is like feeding people who are already full. They will be rejected by heaven and its way. Balance. If you try to change the world, you won't succeed. For the world is like a holy vessel, dangerous to toy with. Those who mess with it harm it. Those who grab at it lose it.
Just be ordinary. Just be ordinary. It is because people say some things that are beautiful that the idea of
And he seems that his old boy is fooled him the whole way through. He says, at the same time, profound respect, and you wonderful rascal. There's a very strange thing in the, I've poked around a good deal lately in Japan among American Zen students to find out what's going on. And they tell me that the initial
energy of the universe
is very tough.
The way of heaven is like a well that is used but never used up. It is
But as you
eternal,
move in,
and the creator
he turns into your older brother and is a person you feel going right along with you, beside you, helping you in this thing, full of friendship and compassion and everything. But occasionally he will suddenly turn and bring on the authoritarian stuff. But they do it in a very strange way. There was a Zen master who on a Saturday morning, when he should have been woken up at 8 o'clock, was woken up at 7, or whatever the time was. No, he should have been woken up at 8 on Saturdays and 7.
just be ordinary. It is because people say some things that are beautiful that the idea of ugliness exists. It is because people say some things are good that the idea of evil exists. Being and non-being come out of each other. Difficult and easy are part of each other. Long and short define each other. High and low determine each other. Sharp and flat harmonize each other. Front and back follow each other. Therefore the wise one acts without doing, shows without saying, accepts without reservation, receives but doesn't possess, raises but doesn't own, guides but doesn't depend, succeeds but isn't proud, and for the
and Jordan and American traffic
sad about the world. Hey, my friend here has been like reading into one particular the right kind of guy, and it turned out that he was. Is Adrian Elon? Is Elon? This is why I stopped by quit posting these space meat. I don't think you know what. I actually don't think you know what. Is this election action? Yeah, I do.
Okay, trigger warning, this is a very upsetting video. If viewer discretion is advised.
I was shocked that this person lived by well.
On weekdays. So this was a Saturday, and his attendant monk came and woke him up at 8. He was immediately looked at the clock and was absolutely furious that he'd been woken up an hour late because he didn't know it was Saturday. So he struck out at this monk in a rage. And the monk said, "Master, but it's Saturday." He said, "Oh." Anger disappeared, absolutely serene, no apologies. So you see, the nature of this game is the Zen game. And I seem to have given away the show to you. Told you all the inside mechanics of it. But you would discover that if you tangle with a Zen master and you think you know from what I told you what are the mechanics of it, and you stuck your neck out to put yourself in the position of being an inquirer, everything I have told you would be useless. He would outwit you completely. That's what consists in being a master. He's not doing it because he wants to be superior and to put down other human beings. He's doing it out of great compassion because he feels he knows something which, if you could find out, you would just be so happy. And I'm going into all the various problems which have to do with the control of the mind. And so I might introduce what I'm going to say by saying it from different points of view. For example, if you're interested in communications, it will be the problem of feedback. Or if I may put it in theological terms, how does man follow the will of God if the will of man is perverse? The theologians say, you cannot do this without having divine grace, or the power to follow the will of God. How then do you get grace? Why is grace given to some and not to others? If I cannot follow the will of God by my own effort because my will is selfish, how will my will, which is selfish, be transformed into an unselfish will? If I cannot do it because I am already the selfish will, then grace must do it. If grace has not already done it, why not? Because I didn't accept it. But by definition, I had no power to accept it because my will was selfish. Must I then become a Calvinist and say that only those people who are predestined to receive grace will be able to live the good life? Then we come back.
Very reason he is successful, being still. The dark is the root of the light, the still is the source of all motion. Though the wise one travels all day, though the wise one travels all day, he never leaves his heart. However beautiful the view, he stays serenely quiet. How foolish is a great lord who runs around like a fool, losing himself to all the world and the chance of heaven. Moderation imagination, stretch a bow to the very full, and you'll wish you'd stopped in time. Grind a sword to its sharpest edge, and you'll find it soon grows dull. When gold and jade fill your house, you'll find they can't be safely guarded. Wealth and fame bring pride, which brings ruin in its train. When your work is done, then stop, such as heaven's way. Winners, the best charioteers don't rush ahead, the best fighters don't show the strength, the greatest leaders win without a fight. The richest salesmen act with great humility. This is the power that comes with not fighting. This is the way that heaven uses people, and this is the way to win. Pushing, he who stands on tiptoe isn't steady. He who pushes ahead doesn't go far. He who tries to be a star clouds his own way. He who defines himself cannot be distinct. He who boasts of what he'll do cannot succeed. He who's proud of his own work creates nothing that will last. This is like feeding people who are already full. They will be rejected by heaven in its way. Balance. If you try to change the world, you won't succeed. For the world is like...
To be an admissible position, that people who live evil lives and do not get grace because they are not predestined to it out of the infinite wisdom of the Godhead, then God himself must be held responsible for their evil deeds. And so that is a nice little tangle. If I put this in the language of Oriental philosophy and religion, it would be something like this. The Buddha said that wisdom must come only from the abandonment of selfish craving or desire. One who abandons that desire attains nirvana, which is supreme peace, liberation. Nirvana means in Sanskrit, blow out. That is, exhale the breath. The opposite, desire, is to breathe in. Now, if you breathe in and hold it, you lose your breath. But if you breathe out, it comes back to you. So the principle here is, if you want life, don't cling to it. Let go. But the problem is, if I desire not to desire, is that not already desire? How can I desire not to desire? How can I surrender myself when myself is precisely an urge to hold on, to cling to life, to continue to survive? I can see rationally that by clinging to myself, I may strangle myself. I may be like a person who has a bad habit, as a result of which he is committing suicide. And he knows that, but can't give it up, because the means of death are so sweet. So it all comes down to this basic question. The human beings have for a long, long time been concerned about transforming their minds. Is there any way in which one's mind can be transformed? Or is it simply a process which is nothing more than a vicious circle? I could ask, why have you come here this afternoon? What were you looking for? Would it be too presumptuous of me to say that you were looking for help? That you hoped you would hear somebody who had something to say that would be of help and relevance to you as members of a world which is running into the most intense difficulty. A world beset by a complex of problems, any one of which would be bad enough. But when you add together all the great political, social, and ecological problems with which we are faced, they are appalling. And one naturally says, the reason why we are in such a mess is not simply that we have wrong systems for doing things, whether they be technological, political, or religious, but we have the wrong people. The systems may be all right, but they are in the wrong hands because we are all, in various ways, self-seeking, lacking in wisdom, lacking in courage, afraid of death, afraid of pain, unwilling really to cooperate with others, unwilling to be open to others. And we all think that's too bad. It's me that's wrong. And if only I could be the right person. Is this man going to tell me something that will help me to change myself so that I will be a more creative and cooperative member of the human race? I would like to improve. So in so many people's minds and from so many different angles, there is this urgent feeling that I must improve me. And this is critically important because it's obvious that, at least it's superficially obvious, that the way things are, we are going to hell fast. Now, in this question, can I improve me? There is the obvious difficulty that if I am in need of improvement, the person who's going to do the improving is the one who needs to be improved. And there immediately we have a vicious circle. All right, you want grace? Well, ask God, maybe he'll give it to you. And the theologian will tell you, yes, God gives his grace freely. He gives it to all because he loves all. It's here like the air. All you have to do is receive it. Or a more orthodox, a Catholic Christian would say, all you have to do is to be baptized, to take the holy sacrament of the altar, the bread and wine, the body and blood of Christ, that there is the grace right there. And it's given by these simple physical means so that it's very easily and readily available. Well, a lot of people got baptized, and it doesn't always take. People fall from grace. Why do they? You see, we're just talking about the same old problem, but we've put it a step up, but it's the same problem. How can I improve myself? Was the first problem. The second problem is, how can I accept grace? They're both the same problem. Because you've got to make a move, which will put yourself out of your own control into the control of a better. If you don't believe in the Christian kind of a God, you can believe in the Hindu kind of a God, who is your inner self. You see, you've got a lower self, which you can call your ego. That's that little scoundrelous fellow that's always out for me. But behind the ego, there is the Atman, the inner self, the inward light, as Quakers would call it, the real self, the spirit, which is substantially identical with God. So you've got to meditate in such a way that you identify with your higher self. How do you do that? Well, you start by watching all your thoughts very carefully, watching your feelings, watching your emotions, so that you begin to build up a sense of separation between the watcher and what is watched. So that you are, as it were, no longer carried away by your own stream of consciousness. You remain the witness, impassively, impartially, suspending judgment and watching it all go on. That seems to be something like progress. At least you're taking an objective view of what is going on. You are beginning to be in a position to control it. But just wait a minute. Who is this self behind the self, the watching self? Can you watch that one? It's interesting if you do. Because you find out, of course, that this is just as the problem of grace is nothing more than a transposition of the first problem. How am I to be unselfish? By my own power. It becomes how am I to get grace by my own power. So in the same way, we find that the watching self or the observing self behind all our thoughts and feelings is itself a thought. That is to say, when the police enter a house in which there are thieves, the thieves go up from the ground floor to the first floor. When the police arrive on the first floor, the thieves have gone up to the second. And so to the third, and finally out to the roof. And so when the ego is about to be unmasked, it immediately identifies with the higher self. It goes up a level. Because the religious game is simply a refined and highbrow version of the ordinary game. How can I outwit me? How can I one-up me?
Can chocolate syrup or powder?
Congratulations. You're not American. You're in Israeli, right?
No. I'm living good.
And your breasts are like pomegranates. Give me a efficient break. But when it's saying Adam and
like pomegranates.
yeah, but when it says Adam,
Andrew, just because you don't want to accept that God has declared that human breasts are equivalent to pomegranates doesn't mean that you should ignore
Nation right before the establishment of the state of Israel in 47 between Pakistan and India, more than 1 million on each side. And at the end of World War II, something like 11 million people had to be relocated to other areas to flee the war. And became refugees and were resettled in new places and did not have a right of return.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like,
and only the Jewish people, this problem that we have between the Jews and the Arabs, this was the only conflict that they didn't allow relocation.
Yeah, but
and we should, and now it has to happen.
Yeah, but they voted. Again, like this blows my mind. Like learning more about what was happening in the Middle East and stuff. Like the people in Gaza voted Hamas as terrorist organization to represent them, right? And that's fine. They had one election, and the next time, miraculously, the people, the Hamas people said, like, you know what? No elections. No more elections. It's so stupid. It's so stupid, and it's so much on the nose. Like none of this makes any sense.
Because I'm not blaming it on heterosexuals. I'm referring to the toxicity within the gay community.
Certainly.
No, I don't know. Sadness. Yeah, I can hear sadness in your voice. That's a part of you know a lot more about that than I do. I think.
That girl in Chicago.
People
I don't
entered her
care.
apartment and killed her vagina.
Yes, entered her.
A black girl just got raped in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Paris suburb reels after anti-Semitic robbery.
Was it a Frenchman?
How is it an anti-Semitic robbery?
No. It was a student.
Was he a baby-faced student?
Yeah, he was old French family, Mohammed Ahmed.
Oh, wow. Well, maybe she should thank her Jewish brethren for, in creating the circumstances and policies which invited so many of them into the fucking country.
Oh, that's true. I know, the Jews.
If they would leave them on their land, they wouldn't be there.
The Jews don't have land.
They stole the land. They stole the land from the Jews in the year 637.
No, they didn't. Those aren't the same people, dummy. The people that stole the land are now living in America ruling, right? The people that stole your land were Romans. It was not Palestinian people that stole your land. And actually, if you're Ashkenazi, you were never there. Let's not wake that up. Only those other people were. You guys have no DNA outside of Europe.
So how did I end up looking like
How
this?
did I end up in all of that? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. One thing you gotta stop doing though is being a victim. You're not a victim, you're a victor, and you keep acting like a victim. It looks bad. And I told you, I think even if you were not Jewish, this would be you. I think
You kind of Greek.
no matter what.
Like, if you said you were Greek, I would believe it.
Yeah. He looks very Greek. But that's who they are. The Greeks stole... You know what? Let me be quiet. I go with this black shit.
There's only two races in the world, black and non-black.
Incorrect. You can't lump yourself in with us when it suits you.
Yeah, and then you're black. When you
That's a
need
good
the civil
point.
rights.
That's a good point. That's a good point. You guys flip out when you get called white.
Yeah.
So which race would that be for you, Zach? Which one of those? Check out the pin link to the top. Maybe you guys. That sounds right.
I can't read it. Can someone read it to me?
It says the Jew, a Negro.
Ooh.
Being a study of the Negro Jew. Of the
Yes.
Jewish Negro. When was this published?
It don't matter.
1991. Oh, 2019. Currently in reviews.
It's actually a very old book. It's from the 1800s.
1 star. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it's been.
भैया वो हो गया जी हो गया
फिर से भाई क्वेश्चन कर रहा हूँ मैं टेंशन ना था
ओके भाई एक मिनट रुक जाओ भाई सारा को देंगे शांत सारा ने पूछे तो
जायरा तुम्हारी असल बताओ
हाँ
तुम्हारी असल एज बताओ 28 हाँ
लड़की की दुश्मन रहती
What? When did I
28 बोले करेक्ट आनंद भाई से कौन पूछ रहे बिल्ली हाथी के ऊपर चढ़ने जा रही चुमटी अगर हाथी के कान तक पहुंच रही तो उसको भी पागल कर देती
भाई आनंद भाई से कौन पूछ रहे मैं रुक जाओ मैं पूछ रहा हूँ
पूछो भैया
हारून बाबू की बिल्ली का साइज क्या है
6 इंच तने तो ये देखो भैया
अब बैठे
तो है 5
Why do you think he's doing that? Quran isn't necessary. The gospel isn't necessary. These divine simplest. It's not just me. It's not a Muslim versus other paradigms. Even within the Christian paradigm, there are a lot of Christians who are completely against this, and Jews. There are Jews who oppose Maimonides wholeheartedly. They do takfir on him. Maimonides is a kafir.
Yeah.
Yo, Dominic, at me. I'm not surprised. Oh my God. I'm not surprised by this because of the fact that the Jewish people in Britain were trying to get the Palestinian land already. So they were probably doing the same in Germany too. And the thing was the German people those, especially those who wanted the Jews out of Germany, were actually welcoming this because this was a much more cleaner way of getting rid of them. So I don't see this being something that's not well known. This is something that's not.
At least so it would describe why there's a problem in that region.
Yeah, I don't know why this is.
That's a very simple solution.
Welcome to the Palestine issue.
That's a very simple way of looking at it.
No, Redrum, what was your deal with this issue? Like, what was you said like this?
Yeah, so I have no deal. I just brought it up to discuss on what people.
Because he learned about it last week, Chaos. I think he learned about it
He
last.
saw a YouTube video about it last.
He was like, yo.
Oh, the shut your faggot ass up.
I mean, it was on YouTube.
Right?
Bitch.
It was on YouTube.
Am I right?
Hey, it was on YouTube. I know.
Fucking right.
So there's a book about the state of Israel's creation. I think My Promised Land. That talks about this, about how the Jewish people of Europe are facing a lot of issues and discriminations, and also pogroms, especially in Russia. I think there was a faction in Germany, and there was also a faction in Britain that was courting their governments to give the land of Palestine to them as a state that they could as a state that they could create a Jewish state out of. This is something that I knew about this when I was reading about Palestine.
Yeah.
Most people don't even know about that.
I thought by now most people have looked into the history of the creation of Israel. So like Chaos, if I didn't know it already, it doesn't come as a surprise.
Okay, Fred. I would like to introduce you to Potomac, which was a Ute period for, what is it called? Basically Mesopotamia. The Jews, before they were Jewish, they were Mesopotamian. And Abraham's father's name was Terah.
That makes sense.
The gods they worshipped at the time was Asherah, Baal, Moloch, and, they got an Anut as well, but, yeah.
There was one other deity that had traveled back and forth between cities of
You have everything at all that's ever existed in the world.
Babylonians and then the Assyrian Dark Age at the same time, or around the same time, I should say.
Red Rum, are you PMSing or something?
Your dad was PMSing, bro. What's wrong with you,
I am not left.
I was not talking to you, and you come at me. So don't even start, Florida. Don't start with me I don't know what I didn't do shit to you. So don't come at me because I brought up a topic. Don't come at me because I brought up a topic.
You already answered my question. It was an affirmative yes.
Affirmative yes, and your dad's a heavy there.
Oh man,
I'm sorry, fucking my name.
What are you guys talking about here? What are you guys?
Hey, bro, Chaos has been on fire lately, bro. Chaos was like, what? I don't fucking know you. I said a lot.
Anything else?
Bitch, give me the season finale. I've watched every episode of this.
Alibaba is a really, really large website as well. They also tie into other assets. So overseas,
handle a war like that. That's all I got.
Okay, well, Michael, Dr. Albert.
Americans.
No, Michael,
I just want to ask the Native Americans about
Jerry's Dr. Albert. Dr. Albert been waiting patiently. We want him to get in there. Dr. Albert, Mike.
Yeah, I've heard Brother Anthony echo this, and this may sound a bit cruel, but we have to understand who and what our government is. America and Israel are one and the same, and they'll never, ever separate. This is business. The Palestinians have no choice except survival. The United States, because Israel mismanaged some things, had to step in and be big brother. Okay, we got it. We're here now. Matter of fact, we're going to take this. This is a real estate deal. We're going to take this. However, Israel, you're going to manage it. Because the United States and Israel owe each other a lot. With the OPEC agreement, the United States and Israel is responsible for a large deal of security detail in assistance to the United States. So much that Israel has assisted that America has an embassy that encompasses the majority of that area in Europe, going north of Israel. So the countermeasures are spies and things of that nature that the United States uses. The United States maintains balance because they understand, you know, like we going to have capital gains and capital losses. The United States is not concerned with the opinion of citizens because we do not hold any jurisdiction geopolitically. That's not. We are the citizens of the United States. The United States is doing their job to protect the best interest of the citizens of the United States. They're not going to cater to one demographic. They're just not going to do that. I don't quite understand what you're expecting to happen. When the ramifications, anything going wrong with Israel would deeply affect the relationship with the United States. Something is
Here we go. You had to get played, but you could not.
So I don't quite understand why it's being taken.
I'm bored. I'm sorry.
Well, what's up, Edmund?
Edmund's in here?
Is that Edmund? I think so.
He was talking about you very badly. And he recorded you talking about that Nora thing.
He records everything.
That's why you thought I was doing it.
I think we should be so fucking surprised.
So then why did you try to give me shit when you thought I was recording?
Because you were acting all fucking weird. You were like trying
You
to
were
set
acting weird.
When
I was being calm.
Edmund, with Edmund, we know he's recording, so it's like a given.
I don't record unless I say something. I'm like, oh, I'm recording. And I don't have my other phone. And I don't have free hands.
Are they enslaved?
So, do any Schwartz in here have any Yeezy apparel?
Does your mom have any Yeezy apparel?
It's in the meal room. I definitely ordered some.
I've definitely looked on eBay for Yeezy shoes, and I've come close to buying, but I just never pulled the trigger.
Let me ask you this, John. Do you think that this T-shirt will be a collector's item?
Let's see. Are you PTRing or something?
No, I mean you can click on the link.
Oh.
It's the only product he's selling now on Yeezy.com.
Have you ever seen, like a year ago I went...
They won't ship it to the UK. They won't? No.
It's like such a Schwartz thing to do.
Are they going to open it, or is he on a list already, or what?
Did you ever actually see his pipeline? Did you see his editor or whatever the fuck his product is? That digital product he has that allows you to make beats? Or edits or whatever the fuck it is? You never saw that shit? That was the whole point. Like, when he was doing his whole thing, if you went to Yeezy or whatever, you could, or Yee or whatever it was, you could buy this, like, technological device. It was some, I don't know what the fuck it was. I never saw anybody that had it. I wasn't gonna drop $200 on it, and I didn't even understand what the fuck you could do with it. But I knew it. You could, like, I don't know, create music with it or something. Huh?
There was some like utility. It looks cool though. It did look like it'd be a cool little thing. I remember that. Was it called like the I something or?
I don't remember what
was the name of it.
Fuck, we could find out. He's probably still selling it. That's my point. Is like I've already researched it. I'm not about to go research it again tonight. I mean,
Fucking archive way back machine and go look at his fucking.
I don't give a fuck. I'm not gonna waste my fingertip power.
Well, you're sitting here.
It's true. I'm not. I've already looked all this up, and like I'm just bringing it up because there's no point to bring it up anymore. I mean. But I gotta say, his Adidas shoes or whatever, I think they're still legit. I would go on eBay and buy a pair right now, but I have so many fucking shoes right now. It'd be crazy to buy another pair.
Well, what about the T-shirt?
I would never buy that fucking T-shirt because it's so stupid. It's like a child took a fucking image overlay, put it on a blank white T-shirt, and you're gonna tell me that's even like a marketing? Like, you don't even know what kind of quality fucking T-shirt it is. It's so stupid.
It's $20. You can't go wrong. Just buy it as an experiment. But the point here is,
it's so bad.
What other
other time in history are you going to have the ability to buy a mass-produced swastika? Like,
I don't know. Go on.
like if I went on Redbubble and tried to print a swastika, they would stop me.
It's like
Yeah.
anticipation. It's like, bro, it's a fucking meme coin. It's like I don't even care. I just bought the fucking stuff to be like, fuck you. That's why. It's like in 2009 or something. Fucking in the UK, Simon Cowell's fucking bullshit TV show or whatever the fuck it was. They just like ruined the Christmas #1 every time because they ended the show right before Christmas so that they could get the record, that the fucking Pop Idol or Britain's Got Talent, whatever the fuck it's called, X Factor, so that they get Christmas #1. And it was so bad that out of protest, organically, grassroots people, this started spreading around. The people were buying Killing in the Name as a protest vote, as fuck you. And in like 2009 or 2011, whatever fucking year it was, I bought Killing in the Name, which I fucking hate that song by the way, as a protest vote, as a fuck you, right? Like I would buy that t-shirt and I don't even care if it doesn't rhyme, because it's a fuck you to the system. That's why. It's like, it's like going to a movie on opening weekend. It's like, I was there, bro. It's like a Woodstock t-shirt. It's just
So
like,
you mean to tell me the word Nazi doesn't come from Ashkenazi? People always say it's not the same. Just like German.
It's funny uploaded to Twitter. It's still not uploading to Telegram though.
it comes from Ashkenazi because it's a Jewish word. The National Socialist Party never referred to themselves as Nazis. This is a Jewish slur.
That's what I'm saying, like literally.
Nah, dog, what I'm saying is, man, if you're gonna talk about N-word, Z-word shit, man, you might be the N-word that you talking about. You might be the Z-word you talking about. I don't know what to tell you all. It's just my thoughts. They're the truth of the earth, and you can get the math. Do you know how to spell truth of the earth and the math? This is like a clown house town show, right?
Well, what's the Mark Twain quote about, like,
I'm gonna go take a huge shit and read a book and think about all of you motherfuckers. Bye.
There's something. It's quoted in The Big Short, either in the beginning or the end of the film.
I don't know. It sounds like that Jewish conspiracy movie to level up, and pull the rug on the mortgages and shit. What's that shit about?
See, this is the Nazi
You wanna laugh? I'll waste your time. I'm alternate jazzing now, motherfucker. Do you know the story about the J word and the Z word? Have you heard the newest conspiracy theory? Have you heard the newest conspiracy theory? I don't give a fuck what you do. I got hair to braid, bitch.
Be careful, everybody. Alan has powerful hypnosis.
I'll waste your time. I don't give a fuck about your Nazi history, you little Irish leprechaun bitch. Fuck you, bitch. She's dead to me. She's dead to me. She licked my arsehole, cleaned it wide out. We just got back from the fucking nightclub.
Obsessed with me.
Obsessed with me. Learn the truth of the earth. Maybe you'll pick up some fucking math equations.
He's put me in the trance for the last 3 months. I need help. I can't stop Ellen. All communication and hypnosis.
I know.
He's another one of my MK Ultra program projects like Noura.
That is my coach.
Would you say all communication trichinosis
is hypnosis?
Trichinosis? How do you get trichinosis?
What you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know.
Oh, trichinosis is when you pull the hair out of your scalp.
Is it?
That's what you did, John.
Yeah, trichinosis is when you have psychological problem and you pull your hair out.
I don't believe in psychological problems.
No, it's like a dopamine thing where when you're pulling at the hair, you're technically like generating a dopamine.
It's Jewish
not
trickery.
what you said, you dumbass nigga. Don't read the word.
Okay. Where the fuck are all the bipolar people in Africa?
There you go. Enough said. That proves the point.
What?
Where are all the bipolar and depressed people in Africa?
Oh, those are just, there's no money to classify themselves.
Those fucking kids smiling in the fucking
I agree. You gotta understand, this is bucketing. This is categorization, and that's all it really is. It's bullshit. Total fucking scam. I'm telling you, this country is so bankrupt, it's 100 times over bankrupt. It's fucked. But the whole thing is, the rest of the world is so worse off that it's like, this country's not fucked. You're talking about billions of people living in mud huts around the world, caves, washing their ass after they take a shit with a little water from a plastic bottle that's been used 3,000 times. We owe the money. Technically, the Federal Reserve is like basically the real IRS.
Did you know that the British government didn't pay off a World War I debt until 2015? That's how long they off of World War I.
Which country?
The UK, the British government.
What? What was it? Well, who did they borrow from? Who did they borrow it from?
Hey, who did they borrow it?
I mean, it could have been I don't know. It could have been France. I don't fucking know. I mean, did you see it in the news recently? Because I mean, I find finance news interesting.
Motherfucker, in 2015 recently?
Well, you'll have to Google it with your little fingertips and put it in the chat.
My fingertips are dead to me.
Government debt.
You know, Diego, I wanted to tell you that.
Sorry, you're right. No, actually, let me read this. No, there you go. They will pay it off in March of 2015. Yeah, I was fucking right. Yeah, it's an article from December 2014. They're announcing that their 1.9 billion left will be paid off finally in March of 2015 from World War fucking I.
Wow.
Jesus.
Oh wow, that's interesting. Does it? Can you wait? Did you post it? Did you post it? Where is it?
Fucking Google it. Jesus Christ.
I'm very lazy over here. I mean, I'll just rely on what you say. I'd rather rely on what you say than actually Google it myself. Did you just N-word me, hard R? Jazzy, can you come to my aid as a fellow American and defend me against this leprechaun?
Okay, nigga.
There you go. Delicately, sensitively, a little less hard on that R. Turn it into an H. Ah, that's what I like to say. No, ah.
Like a pirate.
You know, Diego, I wanted to tell you.
High school teacher, he was like, what do they call him, Negro? What do they call the kid?
Diego, I wanted to tell you about this time that I was dating this Persian chick who's kind of like Nora. And so I was at the W Hotel, and I got a room for like a week. I'm up on the rooftop with somebody. His name is Freeway Rick Ross. He's like the cocaine dealer of the CIA. And so somebody on the internet, because I was working, basically, I guess I was spamming, and somebody was like, you should talk to this guy. So somebody introduced me to him, and we were hanging out at the top of the W Hotel having lunch in the sun by the pool. And this chick Odelia storms up like to our table, and she's like, "What the fuck now? What the fuck now?" I'm like, "What? Like, what the fuck is going on?" I guess she was looking at my Instagram and decided she wanted to crash my party or something. So this guy Freeway is like, "Listen, I'm gonna go." I'm like, "Okay, take care, God bless." And so I walk down to the I take the elevator down to the lobby. I go up to the front desk. I say, "Yeah, I'm being accosted by some weird random person here who I don't believe is a guest of the hotel." I'm like, "I'd like you to notify security and help me." So security separates us. I go back up to my room, and I guess eventually she left. But she was just a chick that I was dating, and I didn't even have any beef with her. But the fact that she was so crazy.
Point to this fucking story.
No, I'm just saying that, like, you know, stiff dicks will travel. I don't know. That's all I'm saying.
Wait. Thanks for that one,
Like Freeway Rick Ross, really?
Yeah, go to my Instagram, John Kitover. You can see a picture of me with Freeway Rick Ross.
Damn. Yeah, that guy was hardcore.
Yeah, he's
not to be confused with Rick Rubin.
He's super PG. I mean, I don't know if he's a Muslim or what, but he is very self-controlled. Like, he doesn't mince words, and I did a whole interview with him actually about his involvement with the CIA. It's on YouTube.
A movie about him.
After our meeting, I think I helped him organize his thoughts, and he really launched like a pretty successful mini social media influencer campaign. But then he opened also up a dispensary. He was selling cars at a used car dealership when I met him in LA.
You still can't be trying to send this fucking video. No, I uploaded it to Twitter. I put it to my still says 20. Yes, it was a fucking Twitter link. Come on, well, I fell. It shouldn't be. What did this do? No, but I put the Twitter link. Nigger, look at the Twitter link and what the fuck. I uploaded it to Twitter.
You don't fucking cry when that nigger says nigger?
Why are you not provocative on Twitter, John? That's the place to be.
I know, bro. You can get like such traction and you choose to be here with us fucking, fine people. Dude, you could really put on your fucking your point piece and like troll the shit out of people. You should be on Twitter Spaces, bro. What? That's what your smoke alarm sounds like in that fucking hair down my ear. What?
Wow, that's wild because like if there was any better evidence to have like no faith in the credit or the currency of a country, that's it right there. That's like wild. Did you see that there's 4 other basically undated debts that the taxpayers are still paying out on? It's like, did anybody ever vote for any of the shits from like 1700 even? Did you see that? Did you actually read the article? It's wild. Taxpayers get fucked. Citizens get fucked.
Hey, can you do that sound? I thought that sound for a while.
To pay no tax.
It's you know what that means is technically it's like generational. It's like some people are getting paid out on that and it's in perpetuity. And so it's generational.
Can you do this? It's the sound for Mortal Kombat by Liu Kang.
Which one was that?
You almost did it right now.
Which character was that? Like, was that during a move in the video game or the movie?
Yeah. Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
It's like... So, I don't know if... I just watched this documentary on Sam Kinison yesterday and today. Did you ever see this documentary? It's like the Sam Kinison story. Pretty famous stand-up comic from America. He was friends with like Jay Leno, Rodney Dangerfield, a bunch of other celebrities. And he was a very popular stand-up comic, but he tragically died in a car accident.
Hey, can you play this if I pin it to the top?
Do you sleep with your giant African lion killer?
He sleeps with a Rhodesian.
I'll tell you, heating bills are so crazy over here. I'm like, I have to like put up solar powered panels or something and figure a way to get out of the gas. I mean, or should I just get like an African lion killer to hump every night? Buy an electric blanket, N-word. That's your solution, huh? For high gas bills? Buy an electric blanket, N-word.
Nigger, listen to me.
Do you know how cold it would be if there was no heat? Like, it would be impossible to go to sleep. I mean, I know it'd be possible. When you wake up and you get out from underneath the electric blanket.
It was an ex-girlfriend of mine that actually convinced me of this because I used to like shit on electric blankets. But like my heated seats are like my fucking favorite feature of my fucking car.
Yeah, I mean, that's nice.
In Chicago, it's nice to have a remote start so you can keep the car
Exactly.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. I had that shit. I had it installed. It stopped working. I gotta bring it back.
Started my goddamn electric blanket that I can like turn on from anywhere in the fucking world.
Man.
And I set it as a 2-hour timer. So
Shit breaks.
When I get into it.
Shit breaks, man.
Really, you like the warm bed?
I like to get into a warm bed.
Play the sound,
I like the cold bed, man.
Yeah, somebody in my other room, her name is Ostrina. She says, T-Rob, when you can't get a woman, you'll settle for heated seats. That's what she says. Somebody named Ostrina. I don't know who she is, but she comes to my rooms a lot. I don't know if that's her real face or not, but.
Well, if you quote settle for heated seats, but you're a broke ass bitch by thinking that they're a luxury. They're a standard for me.
Yeah, that's a standard.
So.
Some people, you know, if you gotta buy a fucking piece of shit car, there's so many nice used cars. It's like, I don't understand why people buy like basic new shit. Like, if you don't, like, what the fuck is the point of that? These leases,
they can't even afford an old car, but they can afford a $200, $300 a month of fucking payment.
Yeah.
Because it's what it is. It's fucking generational fucking debt, bro. They're just like perpetually in fucking payments.
Yeah.
You know, I prefer to have money at the end of the month rather than fucking payments.
I know. I've been buying used cars my whole life. I've never bought a new car. I've been on eBay. I bought multiple cars off of eBay, Craigslist.
You bought a car on eBay?
Yeah, I bought a beautiful 2001 CLK 430 convertible in Tampa. Drove that shit back to Chicago and spent the month at my uncle's house with it. It was the greatest car ever. Fucking love Mercedes. It's like real. Fucking compared to Ford, when you shut that door, it's like closing the door to a tank. When you shut a fucking Ford, it's like closing the door to like a plastic piece of shit. Yeah, you could say that. It's just like fucking metal, you know? It was like heavy, and when you started that shit, the whole fucking car felt like it was jumping.
That they only used wood on those doors when they like know metal. Do you think these people would use wooden doors?
Stream Road, he's an idiot. He doesn't get it.
He doesn't get it.
Diego is laughing because he got the joke.
Play the sound, Tim.
You know, we also have this other listener, a very dedicated listener. I don't know who this person is, but this profile is called Robert the Robot. Have you ever seen this one? Robert Redding. It's not my shit. It's somebody from the Itty Bitty Titty Committee who is like on a burner. I have 2 burners that are listening right now that never speak. And I just find it amazing that it always seems to be connected to you guys. And somebody always...
Are you Don Julio? Who the fuck's this Don Julio motherfucker?
In this room?
Don Julio. No.
Oh, I don't know. I do not know.
There's some kind of
Anyways, Jazzy, what I was saying is about this Sam Kinison comedy documentary. Is that this guy Sam Kinison? He would go on stage and he would scream. And so what I'm saying to you is, if you were to go on stage and essentially just do Sam Kinison, it would be the same thing. But you just need to come up with material, but just incorporate the screaming.
What we need to incorporate is...
Can you please mute up, Jazzy?
Jazzy and Edmund need to have like a weekly podcast, but like do it live on air with like ask the audience questions on Twitter Spaces. Can you imagine these 2 fucking clients going at it?
It is so hard to get traction on X because...
Nigger, you don't even try.
No, they red label all my accounts. Everything is basically ghosted.
Yeah. Impersonating people, bro.
Adrian Dimon? How do you impersonate somebody who's not a real person?
You're so afraid to be yourself.
Right, you're boring.
Oh, I would actually, I don't mind being boring as long as I'm not stupid and fat.
Well, you're both of those, bitch. Have you seen your stomach? Hello? You're out of shape. You really think you're smart?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about Edson, so big, bald-headed ass. Alopecia having ass, bitch.
You're gonna be out of breath by the time you get back over to your phone.
I heard people are microdosing Ozempic. You might want to try it, Jazzy.
Yeah, after your mom. After your mom tries it, then I will.
No, it's true. People are microdosing Ozempic now. People are microdosing Ozempic. It's like, it's supposed to be genius.
Your mom's a fat bitch.
You could go blind, though. I heard Ozempic is making people go blind. But that's okay. If you go blind and you're fat, you won't know you're fat anymore because you're blind. You won't make judgments about people's body mass index.
You're a fucking loser who records everything and thinks he's gonna get famous. Nobody likes you. On this platform, on YouTube, on X, you'll never gain any traction, bitch.
God damn.
See, if you were to just take that energy and be Sam Kinison with it, like, you could actually be very funny. But unfortunately, you're an angry person who doesn't know how to create comedy. You sleep with a fucking African lion, you're a webmaster, and you don't have children. Who the fuck are you? I mean, what do you really have in your life, T-Robs?
You don't have any kids either.
I've got you, bro. Hey, listen to me. I got rich listings. I basically leveled up today on one site, and Google's now showing my you have to understand what rich listings are from online.
Yeah, luxury listings. Okay. Well, congratulations. That's great news. I hope you take the prosperity and the money to live a happy life instead of coming on here and fucking talking about J-words, N-words all the time, talking with J-words, saying N-word all the time. I mean, do something with your life. Make me proud, man. Make me happy that I know you. Invite me out to fucking Spain sometime and be a player, man. I mean, what the fuck, dude? The fucking leprechaun bullshit, you know, fuck off. I don't give a fuck. You know, fuck it. Do whatever you want to do. All right, Austina just wrote something in the chat. She wrote, Tim is the sickest person on this app. Jazzy top 5. This is the reason people come. They are most mentally ill.
That's amazing.
Mad because you try to be mentally ill and you can never be me, bitch. You do a whole impersonation of me. Do you want to call me dumb, bitch? I got something figured out. People like to listen to me. Nobody wants to hear you talk, bitch. That's a fact. Nigga, you got burners in your room talking to you. They don't want to speak to you in their real voice because you're a fucking loser. You're a literal fucking loser, Edmund. Nobody's ever going to think what you did with all these recordings is profound. Clip that. Replay that, bitch.
You're basically like a black... You're like a Sam Kinison, but you're spray painted black. You might be the reincarnation of Sam Kinison spray painted black. You could be Sam Kinison, and you don't even know it. You might be Sam Kinison, and you don't even know it.
Black bitch, you're a white bitch. Those are the ones.
You might be Sam Kinison, and you don't even know it. You're a black spray-painted transsexual Sam Kinison. So this has been a commercial production for Yeezy. Everybody go to Yeezy, click the link above, and buy this amazing T-shirt.
Bitch, you did have chase you off Instagram. She's probably a fat, ugly bitch, right? Those are the only type of bitches.
Projecting.
I know that fat Chinese bitch you had.
Projecting.
Fat. And I'm a fat girl that doesn't think you're attractive, and you don't know how to handle that.
Girl, you admitted that you're fat? You admitted that you're fat?
Have you seen your teeth?
You admitted that you're fat?
The only type of
The audience is loving this.
I never heard you talk about my girlfriend this, my girlfriend that. You can't keep a bitch because you're a loser. You probably record her getting naked. You fucking creep ass nigga. You're a literal fucking creep ass bitch.
Hello? Okay, so
I want to see how far you get off imitating me and my likeness, bitch. You're not gonna make it nowhere because you're not me, pussy nigga.
I'm trying to give you some
You'll never be me. Stop trying to talk like me. Stop trying to be Jasmine. I know I have, infected your blood, right? You're not me, and you'll never
I'm
be
trying
me.
to be you, Jazzy. So I'm trying. What is this, Willy Wonka? What did I just eat? A schnozberry?
So you tried to imitate me.
Try to breathe a little. I know you're naked.
Everyone already knows me, bitch. What's up? Hello? Hello? Making somebody sound like a fucking grandma. I don't even sound like that, bitch. But you're so fucking old and fucking last week. You can't even fucking sound like me. You're a grandpa, bitch. Hang it up. You're not gonna be internet famous. Go get a fucking job.
I'm willing to bet that you probably couldn't even do 3 push-ups or even touch your toes.
And get out of there. Then you can lower all the bills, you renting ass bitch. You're a renter. What's wrong with you?
And what is the deal with these African American women?
What is the deal with bald-head niggas that wear underwear on Instagram Live? With little nut sacks, bitch. What's the deal with that?
I've been told that my balls are distended quite a bit.
Talk to me, but I don't never want to talk to them. What's the deal? Girl, well, turn the volume down. I'm not gonna let no pussy nigga like Edmund talk over me. The fuck?
We're gonna have to deny your job application. We want to thank you for applying, and we wish you all the best. Take care and God
I
bless.
don't give a fuck. And I'm not even yelling. It's called a wire, nigga. Go buy one, you broke, cheap, fucking welfare living bitch. You got 50 Obama phones, nigga. Fuck wrong with you? I seen your setup, you pussy ass nigga.
I'll be clipping all of this and sending it straight to the Netflix cut shop. I mean, this is incredible content.
The thing is, I'm a different black bitch. Let me find me on Netflix without my consent. Your ass is as good as broke. I'm not that black bitch that I'm gonna let. Oh, I'm on TV.
You mean to tell me that you would file a lawsuit against me, go into bankruptcy and debt on the proposition that it's possible my Netflix video will get monetized and you'll try to take the proceeds from the Netflix sale?
Yeah, faggot. What's wrong with you?
Lawfare. It will bankrupt you, Dr. Jasmine.
Boy, I got lawyers on retainer. Fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, but he doesn't have assets, so...
Yeah, there's nothing to take over here. What do you want, a fucking couple Miller High Lifes and a package of weed? You want a dime bag of weed? I'll give you a dime bag of weed and a couple Miller High Lifes and put some orange juice in there for you, Dr. Jasmine.
This shit is never making it past your house. Or apartment, my bad, you don't have a house. It's never making it past the lobby. Okay? Fuck. No one likes this but you. And the only time your content will get clicks is if I'm on it.
I'm just saying, I like getting your blood pressure up.
I'm just saying that you're a bitch.
I really like it when your blood pressure goes through the roof to the fucking moon. Because the higher your blood pressure, the longer you're going to talk. The higher your blood pressure, the lower your life expectancy. And so if I can get you to stroke out or possibly have a seizure or a migraine, it'll be the best possible outcome for everyone on this app, including yourself.
Literally a crash out, dummy, nigga. I know how to make you spin every time. You over there talking in a voice that's not even yours. Oh, everybody, come to the clown circus. Oh, shut your dumb ass up. You get the crashing out every time. You're the real crash out dummy. You don't speak that you're channeling your ancestors' voices because they were so
I challenge you to say something intelligent even once. Say something smart even once with your life. Do it. Try it. Free yourself.
Can you do little monkey noises?
I'm just saying, if you do the clicking with these people, I think it might work a little better. Maybe they understand clicking nowadays.
So, what were you guys talking about?
We're talking about...
And he milked. And I milked him night after night after night after night. I milked Edmund until it wasn't right. I milked him, though I might. I milked him until he was tight. I milked him.
I've got nipples, Greg. Can you milk me?
Wait, what are you milking exactly?
I stuck my fist up your ass so far that your grandfather felt it, and I milked him too. I milked your lineage for 3 generations with my fist and my trust. And I will milk you again, you bitch.
I think I saw a picture of you on a bar wall once.
You again, you son of a bitch, you fucking bald-headed, big, pudgy belly, beer-drinking wino.
Is this love flattery poem?
You're very out of shape even though you think I'm fatter than you. You are taller than me and your stomach is sticking out like a pregnant woman.
Projection, my dear fat queen.
Son of a bitch, and I think you should go to the gym more.
You've seen beach whales.
I don't really give a fuck what you have to say, Edwin. You are a bitch.
Edwin, she's saying go to the gym, fatty.
I did. I went to the gym earlier.